Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos, coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona. This will be the final episode of this series on Abby and Libby's case, everything that I have pertaining to the case. Pretty much everything. And we'll get going here in just a moment. Have a lot to go over. We did finish, I think, here midway between Richard Allen's folder, his images. So we'll start with random info. And then we're almost done with Richard Allen's information, and we'll move on to Robert Ives, Ron Logan, so on and so forth. Thank you, Beach Fairy. Yeah, if you guys want to go check out sleuthintuition.com, don't judge me too harshly. It's under construction. Typically, you would keep this part of building your website kind of hidden from the public. But I'm open to suggestions. I have a vision for what I want. It's just educating myself on how to build it and make it happen. So thank you, Beach Fairy. Big Bird, Fire in the Bowl. Good to see you. She Warrior. TGIF. Thank you, Night Shadow. Good to see you. The Saint. The Flat Earthers. Sela says, gosh, who voted no? Inquisitive, good to see you. Patricia, good to see you. My guy, Don, what up? Yep, right before the trial. Or the next delay, right? But either way, it's wrapping up very soon. And I just want to make sure that the people out there, because a lot of folks are attracted to the Delphi case now because of the arrest of Richard Allen. They don't know about all of this stuff, and they're not taking the time to look. And these are the short attention span type folks that are like, oh, you know that case we always heard about? Well, they finally made an arrest. Now it has my attention. They're more interested in the hearings and the trial and that kind of part of it. The courtroom. Good to see you, Beth. How are you? Thank you. Phil, what's up? Julianne H. Nixon, happy Friday. Thank you, Phil. Welcome in, Curious One. Zoe, hello. Sela Stingy. Miss Thang, Purple Haze, She Warrior, V, good to see you. Stephanie, Cindy. Diamonds, what's up? Mary, Jerry, TJ, Danny B, Saska Rose, Mary, happy Friday to you. Danny B, She Warrior, JL, Grunge Truck, Jimmy Smash. All right, let's get going here. What up, Sheila Burnett? Shout out to Indiana. Thank you, Sheila. So this piece of information right here was put out very early on. Once the arrest of Richard Allen, the investigative journalists, they went to work. And I think they had all this information compiled within a few days. Thank you, Saint. You just bought my coffee. And it is tasty. Two creams, two sugars. So this folder is just random information relating to Richard Allen. On November 19th, 1991, he and Kathy Allen got married. They have one daughter together. In 1994, Kathy gave birth to their daughter, Brittany A. Allen. In 2003, he had a seatbelt violation in Miami County. In 2005, he had a speeding ticket in Fulton County, Indiana. In 2006, he and Kathy bought a house in Delphi. The house is a half mile, excuse me, from Delphi Community Middle School and 2.5 miles from the Monon High Bridge. In 2011, he had a speeding ticket in Jasper County, Indiana. On November 19th, 2016, Kathy took to Facebook to share a video of him outside their car. In the caption, she said he fell asleep in the car while waiting for Kathy to finish shopping at Van Mauer at Castleton Square Mall in Indianapolis, Marion County, Indiana. In 2018, Kathy posted a photo of their daughter on the Monon High Bridge in February of 2018. So February, which is the month the girls were murdered. Oh, no, excuse me. That's not this is separate. I apologize. I was about to say, how did I miss that? In February of 2018, he received his license as a pharmacy technician in Indiana, which will expire on June 30th, 2024. We have a copy of that we'll be looking at. In December of 2021, he and Kathy were photographed in a bar in Delphi sitting in front of a police sketch of Williams and German's killer. On October 26, 2022, Delphi Double Homicide Task Force detectives arrested him and booked him into the Carroll County Jail in Delphi in connection with the murders of Williams and German. He was 50 years old when he was formally charged with 2 counts of murder. On October 28, 2022, he pleaded not guilty. He was transferred to White County Jail in Monticello, White County, Indiana, where he is being held without bail. A lot of that has changed. All right. This is pertaining to his military history and the types of wounds the victims, Abby and Libby, suffered. Thank you again, Saint. David Lowry. I love saying that. Welcome in, David. Thank you, Saint. I appreciate that. You guys do enough as a collective. Hey, what's up, Joseph? So I looked him up before. He has a bunch of traffic violations, right? It looks like a bunch of speeding tickets. Because I think at one point he was working at Walmart or even CVS. He had to travel. So I'm assuming it was between those points. What's up, Miranda? Yeah, we're going to look at all of that. That's all within this folder here. All the randomness. Good to see you, Miranda. Yeah, it tells you something, but not everything. And most times people will tell you everything you need to know if you just listen. Every time they open their mouth, their intentions are there. Mike Lowry. Bad boys for life. Hey, True Crime and Other Stuff. Welcome in. Solar Chef Steph. Happy Friday. Thank you, Joseph. Today we are sponsored by The Saint, not to be confused with Val Kilmer, and Joseph B. Yeah, I have a few traffic violations. What's up, Charlotte? Mel from the Cold Truth. Nothing but the cold truth. Sometimes it's cold. Hey, Cindy. Yeah. And if you go in the comments, everybody's like, why are you putting out stuff that makes Richard Allen look innocent? Why would you do that? The truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. ST3, good to see you. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've even talked to a police officer. The last time I spoke to a police officer was, I think, an aggressive lane change, and I just got a warning. And that was like 6 years ago. The fuck is an aggressive lane change? And then he gave my daughter a sticker. So that was cool. They try to get him young. Okay, let's look at this here. Where is the most lethal place to strike with a knife? And this was on a military forum. The side of the neck and throat, just about even with the Adam's apple. This area contains the carotid artery and jugular vein. If either is cut, the attacker will bleed to death very rapidly. Now, we have both victims here receiving that exact wound. This person targeted that area for a specific reason, a quick death. Now, it'd be different if one had wounds to the neck and one had a wound to the back or the side. But no, they were both attacked to the throat, the jugular area. I believe that is taught during boot camp, right? Ask all these military folks. Because they do train you in knife hand in combat. Mostly with like a bayonet, I'm sure, but I'm sure at some point they talk about that, the biology of it. Richard Allen had fake IP addresses connected to his emails on been verified. I don't know about that, but we are going to look at some very strange things that are attached to his email address. Some things we found on Pinterest. Yeah, we're going to look at all of that weird stuff here. Yeah, what is a fact anyway? Fact is like the consensus of the mob. You know, if you disagree with it, you're just spit out of the mob. Now you're outside of the circle. You're outside of the circle of trust, Fokker. Right. Hey, what's up, Julia? I'll take the fifth on this one. I plead the fifth. Smart girl. Very smart. True crime. I haven't had a speeding ticket since I was 25. It was my one and only. I'm 52 now. Yeah, I'm a middle-aged person myself. I used to speed a lot when I was young, like dangerously. Like my friends and family and cousins will tell you horror stories. Thank God we're alive. Can laugh about it now. Definitely must have had some kind of protection over us. Because just thinking back on it, it's like scares me now. What were you thinking? You idiot. Oh, that's stupid. TJ, that was just an asshole move. That's just like, I'm on my way back to the office. Let me get this guy. Hey, Boston. Good to see you. Here's a screenshot of that video. Somebody put in the comment of yesterday's video that that loud noise sounded like a bottle of champagne. So I'm not sure if that has any. I don't know why he would have a knife. They're saying it could be a multi tool with a corkscrew. Not sure. Here's a good photo of the Ron Logan search. Just trying to find out who the conservation officer was. Here's another conservation officer. Definitely not Dan Doolin. I think this is outside of one of the first hearings. I think that's the first time we heard of Bob Mata. He was hanging out, kind of schooling everybody. Got the murder sheet over here. Frank Meister, I think, is right here. This might be, oh yeah, with the Colts hat. That has to be Frost. Local media. Don't know who this is over here. Yeah, Frost, Frank. That looks like, is that Barb? Not sure who that is. Thank you, Zoe. So now we have 3 sponsors, the Saint, Joseph, and Zoe. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. The Midnight Rider. There's an officer from maybe New Mexico who was quickly attacked by a homeless guy with a knife and who was cut this way, and he bled out almost immediately. Very gruesome. Less than 2 minutes. So it makes me, I hope the girls didn't suffer, but the fear alone and to die that way, even as a grown man, terrifies me. So I don't know about you, but if somebody pulls a gun on you and has a knife, I don't know how many grown men are going to be able to get out of there if this person wants to hurt you. He didn't give them a chance at all of survival because he didn't care. If it's Richard Allen or not, whoever killed these girls did not care about them or anything or anybody, not even themselves, really. But I just pray that it was quick and there wasn't a lot of pain. But we all know that that's just not true. Let's see here. Mr. Allen in 2017, the narrative stated Mr. Allen was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. He parked at the old Farm Bureau building. And we know he didn't park at any Farm Bureau building. That was a CPS building, right? And walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females. He noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He had not remembered the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. He stated there were vehicles parked at the High Bridge trailhead, however, did not pay any attention to them. He did not take any photos or video. So my only question is this. I could buy this timeline, right? He shows up, parks at the CPS building at 126-ish, walks to the Freedom Bridge, has a smoke or two, sits down at the chair at one of the benches, and then leaves and is out of there before, I don't know, 2? But my question is, why did nobody else see him? Nobody saw him after that. So it makes law enforcement curious, like, where did he go? You know, this person was seen, these people are over here taking photos. Where did you go? And it would make sense that if he did leave very quickly, like maybe he just stopped briefly and then got back in his car and left. That's why nobody's seen him. But how do you park at 126? I mean, it's going to take you 15 minutes just to get to the bridge and have a cigarette. And then another 11 minutes to get back. So that's my only thing. It's that mixed with, why is your bullet at the scene? And I'm not buying the whole it was planted there. That's just pure bias on people who just have hatred for law enforcement. And I have plenty of hatred for law enforcement and plenty of personal reasons to have hatred for law enforcement. I have had some horrible experiences. But just because I've had horrible experiences doesn't mean that's what's going on in this instance. According to previous reports and an email from McClellan, defense attorney Andy Baldwin informed the judge and the Carroll County prosecutor on October 10th that his former employee had gone into his office sometime in August and taken pictures of sensitive crime scene evidence related to the murders of Abby Williams and Liberty German. Okay. My only question is, what's the motivation? I think it was monetary. I think they stole these images for money. So who paid him? I hope they find out. Okay, now here's a strange account that was deleted. Now, this account was kind of bouncing around all of the Facebook Delphi groups, never posting, just commenting. And the only time I ever saw any of these comments was when the video was brought up. And this person kept asking questions about the gun. Do you see a gun? Do you think they had a gun? In the audio, did they say something about a gun? So looking back, it's like Richard Allen was almost ready to get rid of the firearm. But remember, he can't part with it. When he became bridge guy, this was the gun he had. This is the gun they can't see in the video. He can't part with it. He needs to check. Look at the name, Rick Allen Hill. The profile doesn't exist anymore. And the comments don't exist anymore. Just the response. So this is a guy by the name of John responding to an account by the name of Rick Allen Hill before anybody ever knew the name. So they're responding to him. I know, but I'm speaking from years of recording experience and the fact they also expect identification from a 1 second video that more closely resembles a Minecraft character as far as details go, only worse because it's a blob. So this person responding potentially to the killer is making him a little more comfortable. That's what he's here for. Reassurance. Another response. Rick Allen Hill, right down the hill. I can't tell. I know based on the interview with Abby's mom, she said something about Abby saying that about a gun. But I have not heard it myself. He's like, "Oh no. Maybe they do know about the gun." Another response. Rick Allen Hill, or do you mean between guys and down the hill? Right? And there is an audio anomaly. I did an old video about it. It sounds like let us go, or now that we know that there was a gun, it says he has a gun. So Rick Allen Hill must have been asking about that. The part in between. And this tells me that law enforcement did a great job by hiding and doing certain things. Like they don't have to hide it for sure. They just have to make the killer feel comfortable so that he doesn't get rid of that weapon. Why? Because it's the one piece they need. And it's the same piece of information that turned a routine search warrant into an arrest of an actual suspect. They wanted Ron Logan. They did everything they could to get Ron Logan. They arrested him on other charges. They searched his home multiple times. They beat him up in the media, and they tormented him in jail for the most part. They wanted to put this on Ron Logan. They didn't want to put this on Richard Allen. In my opinion. When that comparison came back on the unspent bullet, they said, "Hey guys, guess what? We got him. We got a big part of what happened." And right now, we're just dealing with an extremely stubborn person. Everything that you've seen since then is dealing with that monster and the stubbornness and the lack of remorse, in my opinion, right? That's what we're witnessing is the pure stubbornness and the lack of remorse from a cold-blooded killer. Potentially. Let me get down here. Mel says they're saying about the bayonet by Napoleon, I think, something about being able to do anything with it except sit on it. Well, I think in basic training, that's the extent of the knife training is a bayonet, I believe. I could be wrong, but I figured either way they're going to talk about the biology of it and where you preferably should attack what areas. Here are some of the hospitals, the mental health facilities nearby. Grissom, Logansport State Hospital. This is Lafayette. Riverbend Hospital, Sycamore Springs. That's interesting, TJ. Surreal. KO Storkbish. That's a funny name. TJ, that's the guy from UK who appears to think he's in line for the reward. Well, according to his story, he wouldn't be the one. Well, I guess maybe. It does sound like, according to the Attorney General, somebody is in line for that reward. And the only person that I think might be in line would be wife Lilith. Possibly, right? She was the one that was over there catfishing Keegan Klein, throwing phones in the river. We're going to look at an account called, I think it's called Richard's Shadow. And I think that was created by wife Lilith. And it was created the day before he got arrested. And the day he was arrested, there was a big, I don't know what you want to call it, a huge comment about it. A prophetic comment, really. Unless there's also some information about AutoZone in Peru. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. There is that AutoZone was mentioned in the hard drive key of the leaked. I think it was all of the leaked discovery. But in there they talk about an AutoZone and a source, one of my sources, because folks reach out to me that are local to the area, tell me that somebody that works at that AutoZone is friends with Richard Allen's daughter and her husband. So that could be the person in line as well. You know, maybe the son-in-law said, I think my new father-in-law is the bridge guy. Why do you think that? Well, I found some weird shit in the shed. Hey, Todd, what's up? Why did Richard Allen leave the trail after stopping at the first platform? He had the day off. It was an unexpected sunny and warm day in February. He had nowhere else to be. Why would he not walk across the bridge? Yeah, maybe he made his decision on the bridge. You know what I mean? Like he really didn't have any plans to do any of that. But after walking the entirety of the trail, seeing who's been coming and going and who's there, and just realizing that he was alone, he's like, okay, these girls are crossing the bridge. They don't own the bridge. I'm going to cross the bridge. Yeah, it's going to be creepy. I'm going to be all up in their business. That was his first step. Gets out there, sees that nobody's behind him, nobody's around. And he decided, I'm going to do it. All I got to do is take him right down there, the way I've fantasized about it time and time again. I just wonder what triggered him. Either that or it was completely planned and the girls were lured there. This was an article put out. I cannot and will not allow these attorneys to represent you. Judge disqualifies Richard Allen's former attorneys, sets new trial date. And in part 9, we listened to the whole transcript of what happened in Judge Gall's chambers, if you guys want to go hear that. Judge promises release of Delphi documents this week, and she did. This is a map of Keegan Klein's home, Kathy Allen's childhood home, and the AutoZone that was mentioned in the leaked documents, in the leaked discovery. Very close. Silly photo I put together. I attached Richard Allen's face. Just a pattern of the lies that come out of the defense team. And they have no interest in going to trial, guys. I'm telling you that now. The only reason they make these filings the way they do is to leak the information to the public. They're doing their best to create chaos, get a technicality, and worst in a worst case scenario, taint a jury pool. Probably not even for this trial, but for the next. But I don't remember them rolling Richard Allen in on a dolly. I don't remember them putting him in a straitjacket or covering his mouth with some half hockey mask thing. I don't remember them doing this to Richard Allen. But yet in the documents, this is what they compare it to. This is the imagery that they want. And they have no intention of presenting this kind of shit in a courtroom because it'll get torn apart. But in the public domain, it's incendiary. Hey, true crime and other stuff. Holder and Westfall can be bad people. Holman can be a jerk, even corrupt. Law enforcement made mistakes. They did. They're human. Still doesn't negate Allen's guilt 100%. All of these things can be true at the same time, and most likely are. Like people who paint an image of a corrupt Carroll County, they might be right, but that doesn't mean that they're in on this murder or tampering with evidence or planting evidence or part of some kind of Masonic conspiracy. Do those exist in the world? Yes, 100% I believe that they do. In this specific case, I don't think so. I haven't seen any proof of it. This is how I figure Richard Allen escaped out of there at around 4 o'clock. This is the Mears property. Hoosier Harvest Store camera would be facing the road here. And at the time, we have Muddy and Bloody, or even just Muddy, which is suspicious in itself, right? Most likely spotted in this area. And we have right here parked on the road the father and the aunt of Libby. We have another vehicle parked here that had a couple that is now pinging on the bridge, on the south end of the bridge, and another vehicle that was parked up here. Not quite sure who was in that vehicle. But those people reported seeing Derek German and Tara German in a vehicle, and they said, yeah, it looked like a drug deal. And it would have looked like a drug deal because you would have Derek German getting out of his vehicle, going and sitting with Tara going, I can't find him. What do we do? And she showed up right around 4 o'clock. She was with Becky Patty, and Becky Patty said, go to the trails. Me and Cody are going to go drive around. They're probably just walking home for whatever reason. You know, who knows what kids do these days. And that's true. When you have teenagers, there really is no rhyme or reason to some of the shit that they do. So that makes sense to me. Let me go do this. Maybe they left. Maybe they, they're not thinking sometimes. They're just excited, and sometimes they even think, well, I'll call mom and dad when I get there and then forget. Or I'll call mom and dad on the way over here. They'll say yes. I know they'll say yes. And then they forget. But either way, there was a lot of commotion going on right here. And I'm assuming that the killer heard Derek German yelling for Libby. He walked all the way down here and was yelling, Libby, Libby, where are you? Calling her phone. Well, he has her phone, and he can hear the echoing of her father through that river. It's really a cavern down there. So he's already panicked. That's why he's doing all the weird shit that he did down there, covering them with sticks, pulling them in, consolidating them into one area. He's afraid somebody's going to see him walk down on the south end of the bridge. All right, he's done what he's done and he's out. Well, how do I get back to my car? This freaking lady just saw me, looked right at me, and there's people parked here. I'm going this way. And it's really not out of his way because instead of looping right here, he just decided to loop right here. Got in his car and left. An interview was done with Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared he had gotten into a fight. Hey, Julianne says, that's what I think. The motive was money. Grunge Truck, what's up? One of the worst body cam footage I've ever seen. I am wondering if this is what he agreed. He said that defense wants suppressed. Richard Allen agreed with this tip summary in this statement and locks in his timeline. Yeah, my question is, what's his alibi? And why don't you see the defense team talking about the confessions with his wife and his mother? Are you guys not curious about that? Because I'm in agreement with the defense. I say throw that interview out. I don't think they need that interview. Because in the first interview with Richard Allen, they told him they clearly stated you're free to leave. Yeah, you guys can go. I just want to ask you if you were on the trails that day. And we asked your wife if you had firearms. She said, yeah. Do you have firearms? Yeah, I do. Okay. So that's all they needed. Tell the judge, hey, look, this guy, we realized he was on the trails that day. Now, when we first talked to him, we didn't have all this information, so nothing clicked. We didn't even register in our mind, and we took a bad tip. We filed it improperly. It was our fault. But now we found the guy. We know he was on the trails. He matches our timeline, matches the description, and we don't want him to destroy this gun. We believe that we may find the clothing that he had on that day. And remember, this is the same steps they took with Ron Logan, they took with the Maxwell, they took with Brad Weber, and a handful of other people we don't even know about. They said these very same things. We believe we're going to find evidence of a murder here if you just allow us to search. Okay, tell me why. Well, he admits to being there at the time of the murders. He fits the description, and he said he was wearing a blue coat and blue jeans. He was on the bridge and on his phone that day. All righty. Go ahead. This is a logo of his high school, North Miami. It's their mascot. Yeah, Anna, that's a good point too. To silence. I would do it and I could do it, but yeah. Thanks, Don. I want to know why we haven't heard from Murphy, Click's partner. It's a good point. But I think it's the same reason why the defense will not subpoena like Elvis Fields, Patrick Westfall, Brad Holder, because they don't want to hear any truth from those guys. They don't want their narrative broken. And I don't think they plan to go to trial to begin with. But even so, they don't want them in there telling what actually happened. You wanted my alibi. Well, here it is. They don't want any of that part. They want to hear more about the confessions. Like, I believe that Brad Holder did say the things that he said to Amber Holder. I don't think that Amber Holder is lying. But my time covering true crime, I've learned a lot about false confessions and human behavior, and I don't know why people do it. Some people think it's cool, right? Have you ever seen Serial Mom? Very, very good movie. It's funny as hell. Well, it's about a serial killer mother hiding in plain sight, and her son is obsessed with horror movies. But once he sees the reality behind these killings, he's utterly disgusted and mortified and scared for the victims of his mom because it's not like it is in the movies. But there's people who are horror movie fanatics and they like the blood and the gore, and they're a little desensitized and they've never really seen real victims or any of this in reality, in real life. And those are the kind of people that say, oh, yeah, well, I'm the real killer. Or they just lean towards the darkness, right? I'm going to try to scare this woman, and I don't care if she thinks that I'm part of a double murder. For all we know, Amber accused him prior. So maybe he was just feeding into her fears. There's always two sides to the story. If you get Brad Holder on the stand and say, did you say this? He might just say, yeah, I did say that. Why? Well, I was drunk. I was mad at Patrick Westfall. I didn't want him to steal my girlfriend. Or, something like that. Who knows? The human aspect. It's not that easy to hide a gun you have registered in your name. If they can't locate the gun, you look very guilty. If you sell it legally, they will still find it. Yeah, not only will they find it, you'll see it again in court. We've seen that in cases where people have tried to sell the weapons and then they get caught with it. They'll even try to sell it under a fake name. And then when they're arrested, there it is, sitting there on the table with all the other evidence. They're like, shit. Thought I was so smart. First of all, if you're killing people, you're already a fucking idiot. So this is Richard Allen's tech license. This allows him to relieve folks in the pharmacy. On April 3rd, 2023, Richard M. Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard M. Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. And this is before the defense team had really started with all the bullshit. So this is Richard Allen getting comfortable in jail and finally starting to talk. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard M. Allen admits that he committed the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Pay close attention to this part. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. So he didn't say anything about, oh, I shot them or anything. He says as charged. And why hasn't the defense brought these forward? Oh, because it will be harmful to their client. More talk about his confessions. Now, this is Richard Allen's actual military records here. So anybody who's putting out false records, you'll notice that they like to hide the last three of the social here. Well, Richard Allen's social is within all of the documents that Judge Gall made public. This is public information at this point. It's very unfortunate for Richard Allen that that's happened. But these are, in fact, the last, if you want to verify, the last three of his social. And other people will put out lies and they don't even care. Try to make him look like he's been in the military for a certain amount of time when in fact he wasn't. You'll notice they'll never share this part of the document. Richard Matthew Allen served in the U.S. Army from 6/5/1991 to 7/26/1991. Now, we don't know if that was from the start of boot camp or outside of boot camp. But if this is at the start of boot camp, he never even completed basic training and was probably Section 8. I think this is a video of Kathy and Richard Allen in Sugarland Stables in Gatlinburg, Tennessee in 2018. Now, I recently did a video if you want to go check it out, because I think it's under the same conditions as Libby's video. You have movement from both sides, the target and the person taking the photo, and he's probably the same distance away on the bridge in the background. So if you wanted to do, so I did a comparison of him in all this movement, and it looks very similar to the bridge video if you guys want to go check that out. Which convo? Stork. Sorry, most times I'm behind on the chat, so you got to leave a little bit more context there. It shows that law enforcement initially thought Bridge Guy was taller guy. And all of the witnesses says he was short. That's what I don't understand. Why did they think that? I think they really wanted Ron Logan. They wanted Ron Logan for this. He just wasn't the guy. Hey, what's up, Levi? Tech Death, what's up? Boston Christian. Okay, so this is some of the things that they were talking about earlier on in the live stream in the chat about the aliases. Well, this is something that was found online by searching for Rick Allen 1972. That's Rick Allen's date of birth. And this Pinterest is of a Haley Schneider. Now, if you punch in Rick Allen 1972 in Google, you'll get an Instagram that pops up with a different spelling of Haley Schneider. Now, there's two things that are going on with that person. Either it's a catfish account or it's a badass professional dancer. One of the two. But let's read what's put here. Come on. So they began running about in the face. In quotations, I'll put a stop to this. She said this. Now there's two followers. Look at this. One of the pins is titled Abby. Take a closer look here. Now, I don't know if this is like a hidden message or just something just unrelated. It says here, girl, Saturn, pencil, love. And then this one's also strange. So it says Abby, Haley Schneider. However, this bottle was not marked poison. What the hell does that mean? Probably nothing, right? Just weird. This is Richard Allen's biological father. He's passed away. I believe he was a musician there locally. Cold Truth says he was Army, then National Guard. I can ask my buddy. I think he was part of the Army National Guard. Hey, Jill, good to see you. Can Kathy get the reward? It's possible she turned him in. Unlikely, but definitely possible. Yeah, that is possible. You know, maybe her story is, yeah, I'm sticking beside my husband because I think he's crazy, but I'm also the one that tipped him in. Yeah, that is possible. The Midnight Rider. I don't think it will be wife Lilith or whomever that is. I just don't know. That's the closest I can come to. The only reason I say that is she was visiting Keegan Klein around the time of the Wabash River search, and we know that Richard Allen was arrested. The lost tip was handed over during the middle of that river search. So I'm just saying she's the only person I could see in line to get it. Doesn't mean there's other people that I don't see, right? The Midnight Rider says it won't be Kathy either. It's probably the guy from AutoZone then. Mel says, what happens to the reward fund if no one qualifies for it? Flora fund was given to the fire department, I think. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. Well, I know when Bruiser died, the Delphi reward fund dropped by $100,000. So they must have just removed his portion. Yeah, and that's what I'm going off of, the Midnight Rider. The attorney general said he wants to make sure that they get it. And he made it seem like somebody was in line for it. Hey, Mills, what's up? An illegal booster seat? Would it be illegal or for not using a booster seat? What's up, Hiawatha? Enlighten me. Imagine having the capacity to march two children to their death in the middle of the day in public. Psychopath is an understatement. Exactly. Here's a statement from somebody who worked with Richard Allen for 8 months at CVS. So to quickly disclaim, I'm not going to reveal anybody's name that did or still does work at that CVS location. What I can say is that I've been seeing a lot of speculation on really who he is and if anybody knew anything about who he was. I did not personally interest myself in his outside life, but I did work with Richard Allen at that CVS from July 2020 to April 2021. I don't know what that means. I officially do not work at CVS anymore. And as others have stated, CVS employees, were told to reply no comment in response to any questions related to him. To clarify as well, Rick's official title was shift supervisor. He did have his license, but was only really a backup technician if needed. He was mostly either the shift leader or a shift support when he worked. So he would give people breaks when they needed it. And he had to be qualified for each department, it sounds like. I was a shift supervisor during my time there, and I personally worked with him every time we had a truck for the week, if not 3 to 4 times a week. Rick was the first and unfortunately the most polite and cooperative person to work with. He did a great job hiding in plain sight, and it does shake me a bit that I was alone with him lots of shifts. But in my opinion, the only story I ever heard about Rick's past at that time was that he was a recovering alcoholic. Went to an institution sometime prior to me working there and had worked at Walmart for a few years. Rick never pinged under anyone's radar because he was literally one of the nicest and joking people working there. He didn't seem paranoid or afraid of anything. So, of course, anybody who wasn't the police couldn't piece it together. I'm still pretty shocked on how close I was to him considering that we just found out. I've seen this question a few times. I'm actually non binary, but I present very much as a guy. And there were only two other guys working during my time. One will stay unnamed, and the other was Richard Allen. And we've all seen this video. This is said to be from his Richard Allen's Facebook that he deleted late 2018. Image of 6 Sauer firearms. Roger Mark Gorham, biological father, the obituary. Good to see you, Beach Ferry. Here's Rosie making a scene in the courtroom. He's like, let's go. We're out of here. Fuck these fools. Nick's like, yeah, you better run. Let's see what else we got here. I think we'll finish with this one. This is a screen grab from Web Sleuths. Shout out to the Web Sleuths. Basically, what the neighbors found or witnessed. Search on October 13th commenced. This was posted by Mary Smith, longtime member of their crew there. Commenced just before noon, went for 12 hours. Law enforcement arrived in unmarked vehicles and clothing. Law enforcement asked Rick and his wife to exit the house. We now know that that's a fact. It's stated in the PCA. Rick stood in the driveway for several hours and also sat in the car with his wife for several hours. At some point, the neighbor said said the wife left. Plenty of law enforcement just stood around for the first part of the day. This is them waiting for the so the way I see this is they have him detained. So they have Richard Allen detained and they're waiting on the search warrant. As it was getting dark, Chief Deputy Leggett arrived with a piece of paper in hand. He handed that paper to Rick. Immediately, a tow truck arrived to take Richard Allen's car away. At this point, some law enforcement entered the house and some entered the backyard. They started searching the shed and taking pictures. Law enforcement were using a device like a metal detector or sonar around the shed and in the flower bed. They did not dig in the flower bed, but did dig up two tiny spots near the shed. And we now know that that's the fire pit. Law enforcement started bringing items out from the house. Neighbors said one law enforcement officer came out with what appeared to be two large bundles of dark-colored cloth. Could not be sure if it was clothes, only that it was definitely cloth. Law enforcement also brought out a Macy's shopping bag, a shoebox, and a small stack of books. Said they were thin books, not thick like encyclopedia books. Now, these are most likely crossword puzzles. Things like that. The neighbor said they were starting to get concerned and placed a call to Chief Deputy Leggett to ask what was going on, and all that Leggett told them was to stay vigilant, especially with your wife and daughters. That's not what he said after the crime. The day after the search, Rick went to work. The neighbor states he saw him in store and felt that Rick was continuing as if nothing happened. That's crazy. If he was innocent, I wouldn't even go to work. I'd be like, what the hell is going on? Hey guys, I can't come in today. I feel like I'm being railroaded by the police. I'm in some kind of a nightmare. You guys are going to have to call somebody in. I can't come in. Like nothing happened. Neighbor said they lived life as normal till October 26th when Rick was detained. From October 26th, the neighbors have not seen anyone at the house. They have not seen the wife since he was detained, right? Why not? Why would you leave if you're innocent? House has remained empty since October 26th. Probably a day they've been waiting for. The neighbor said they were a normal family. They did not have visitors, no parties, etc. They were very quiet. Neighbor said he would see Rick arrive home from work, and Rick would regularly sit in the driveway in a lawn chair having a few beers and maybe smoking some cigarettes. Wonder what he was thinking about. Neighbor said they had a little bit more interaction with the wife than they did with him. Makes sense. This is the map between Wabash Valley Correctional Facility and Westville Correctional Facility. He was being transferred from one to the other. Keegan Kline was at the Wabash facility, and because Richard Allen was now there, they sent him back to Miami County, I believe. It's Westville. Overhead shot of Westville prison. More about the confessions. This was on the conservation officer witness list. I don't know if this is going to be the supplemental witness list, but this is the original one here. Muddy and bloody. The PC is almost always considered a public document, but has been sealed pending the outcome of a court hearing that took place yesterday. At that hearing, the Carroll County prosecutor told Gold he believes Allen is not the only one responsible for the murders, and that investigators want the PC to remain sealed to prevent harm to their ongoing investigation. The prosecutor also said he thinks releasing the PC would jeopardize the privacy and safety of witnesses and contribute to what he described as chaos surrounding the case. Now, remember, there was somebody connected to the Anthony Schatz account who was part of the ski mask incident. And the ski mask incident had something to do with one of Libby's friends. And remember, Libby was with one of her friends when Keegan Kline first introduced Libby to Anthony Schatz. So maybe they were afraid of something like that happening. Somebody trying to hurt these witnesses. Let's take a look at Richard's shadow, and then we'll get out of here. Or not out of here, but out of this folder. We got a lot to cover. Okay. So I always thought this was wife Lilith. I remember she started when I first found her on YouTube, it was a channel called Pinky Promise or something like that, like I'll Never Tell or something along those lines. Well, notice this account was created October 12th, 2022. This is the day before they went and questioned Richard Allen. Right after the search, the Wabash River search, who I believe wife Lilith was involved in, right? Her visiting Keegan Kline. So we know for a fact that it was created on this date. But when it was created, this was the photo that was first used. So if you guys recognize this, whoever created this profile, this was the photo that was used to create it. And then it was quickly changed to a photo of Richard Allen sitting in the mall from Kathy Allen's Facebook. So it looks like a man standing maybe with a small child or something in his hand here. And then a female with black hair holding a cell phone, maybe looking over the back of a boat or looking at a waterfall of some kind. So they created it with that photo. changed it to this, and also knew that he was working at the CVS. And this is what they wrote. Description of the channel. October 13th, 2022. And this was posted on that date. Today will change everything. When he closes his eyes tonight and tries to sleep, he will know his days are really limited, and his sleepless nights will drive him to be who he was in 2017. And that's kind of what happened, right? He got skinny again, and he looked like he did in 2017 around the time of the murders. Rick, may the odds be in your favor. It's 12:41 p.m. Richard's probably handing over everything that's going to ruin them. Everything they've been hiding for 6 years is being forced now. He knows he's doomed if he talks and doomed if he don't. He still is going to go on to work tomorrow, which he ends up doing. He does go to work tomorrow and act like he never came today, like they didn't have fear in their own eyes, knowing what he got them into, acting like he isn't worried, careless that he is about to be forced to tell on them too. Maybe it's because he's dead inside. Maybe it's because the alcohol lies to him when the devil wants him to play in the rain. Maybe he knows everyone in town knows. Maybe he really isn't worried. He has talked to the same cops so many times before today. I had to tell, even though I promised not to. And she had an account that was titled Pinky Promises. Here was this person caught in chat. This was a live stream between Steve from True Crime Web. Shout out to Steve, retired law enforcement, L.A. Wilkes, law enforcement, and Ruckus Rocks, all law enforcement. Looks like they were talking about the smiley face killers. Interesting case. That's a case where they believe serial killers or a group of people are drugging and murdering people by drugging them and drowning them, making it appear like an accident, and then leaving a smiley face near the area. Well, in chat, Richard Allen did it for some other guys. Well, here's Richard Shadow in the chat saying Richard Allen did it for some other guys, and Keegan was supposed to take the duffel bag to these guys, and he took the money instead and went to Vegas. I'm telling you now. Later on in chat, that person says Keegan and his 4 friends got a smiley face on their wrist in 2017. Most people don't know he has it. Plus, the number 13 is hidden in his Klein arm tattoo. It's a secret. Keegan took a phone not knowing it was in the bag. He thought it was just a drug exchange, and he dipped them, but then found the phone in Vegas and freaked out. So, not sure what that's all about. Maybe nothing, maybe something. So, this was posted in a Facebook group. It says here, I know you'll probably take this with a grain of salt, but I swear my local family is super involved in the Delphi Carroll County community. This is apparently from a local source. They dug up the yard last night, and we know that happened. Per the neighbor. Neighbor had reported that Richard stole something, and the cops came to look for it and apparently found evidence for a double homicide. So I don't know if this is why, but that doesn't mean that this person who may have reported Richard Allen. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he did. Doesn't mean that's how they found him, right? Or is it? They arrested him at work at CVS this morning. They've known about him for a while. Keegan Klein ratted him out as a second user of the Anthony Shots account. A family friend, a local attorney, told us that Richard voluntarily checked himself into a local mental hospital days after the murder for a 30-day treatment. I think this is the last piece I have here for Richard Allen. Looks like Kathy Allen posted here. So many things I could say. What a great group of fellow pool players, teachers of the craft, and friends who were and will always be my other family. So much fun and laughter, sometimes tears, best of all, people who treated you with kindness and love even when not playing the game. This special place will be missed to those we may or may not get to see as often or ever again. We love you and thank you for taking us under your wings to help us learn and appreciate not only the game, but your memorial friendships. I love this bar, nothing fancy. That is what made it my kind of place to be. If you didn't join in on the good times with good people here, you have lost your chance and will never know what you could have experienced with my peeps. Your loss. Love you, JC family. So this must have been when they were closing down. All right, let's move over to Robert Ives.
Working for you tonight, we took those questions directly to the prosecutor.
My health is fine. My marriage is fine. My family's fine. I'm not in any trouble with anybody to the best of my knowledge.
Carroll County Prosecutor Rob Ives says it was a variety of personal reasons that he made the decision that he'll be stepping down at the end of next month. Ives was first appointed prosecutor in 1987. He went through a volley of election wins and losses over the years, but he's been serving as Carroll County's prosecutor for the last 7 years. He says the Flora fire and the murders of Abby and Libby had been the worst cases of his career.
For both of them to have happened in basically the last year is just horrendous.
And while some have accused investigators of handling the cases differently, I've said that is simply not the case.
So that is a good reason to look at both cases, to think that they might be connected, right? Two of these horrible crimes, the worst crimes to have happened in just, a few month time, separated just by a few months. I mean, it's a good reason to look at it. And they could be connected. I just haven't seen anything yet solid.
The case of the murder of Abby and Libby, there's a photograph and there's a recording. And so the Indiana State Police held a press conference because we want everybody to see that. If we had anything similar to release with regard to Galen's children, Galen Rose, we would absolutely have released that, and we'd had the press conference. It isn't because of any lack of effort there, and I'm very frustrated by people who think there is.
While Ives won't go into specifics on the reasons why he's stepping down, he says he believes right now is the best time to retire because no one has been charged in either case. Now, the next prosecutor will be decided.
Okay, so that makes sense from a prosecutor standpoint. But if you're a conspiracy person, you're going to see him as being told to step down. McClellan needs to step in because he's part of the Free Masonic Brotherhood, and he needs to step in so that he can control the narrative from within. Okay, why would you be motivated to do that? That makes no sense. It's his oath.
No, I mean, the crime scene was physically strange, but that's for the state police to decide what to release and not release. I've said that before. It's very odd.
Thank you, KO. I appreciate that. Also, Jennifer, thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream. Saint, Joseph, Zoe, Don, KO. Good participation in the chat as well. Thank you. And Jennifer. We'll play that one more time.
No, I mean, the crime scene was physically strange, but that's for the state police to decide what to release and not release. I've said that before. It's very odd.
Very odd. This is Ives on
It's
Oz.
impossible to think of a motivation for the crime. Generally, when you have a murder in rural Indiana, in Carroll County, the motive was obvious, the suspect was obvious, and as I've told people, the crime scene is very unusual.
Okay. So if it was a ritual killing, why would he say wouldn't that be obvious? Wouldn't it be obvious that there was multiple people involved and that it was a ritual killing? Obviously, we have 2 victims, 2 killers. We have the guy on the bridge, and then whoever's DNA is all over the bodies, right? So it's obvious. We have these weird symbols that are being put all over the bodies. They drained the blood. They hung them by their feet. These are the things that the defense are putting out in a leaked memo, or at least that's what the image they want to create. So why is it not so clear to Robert Ives?
It's impossible to think of a motivation for the crime. Generally, when you have a murder in rural Indiana, in Carroll County, the motive was obvious, the suspect was obvious, and as I've told people, the crime scene is very unusual. It's all very strange. If you had arrived at this crime scene where the girls' bodies were found, there were 3 or 4 physical characteristics of the crime scene that you absolutely would take pictures of. And I'm not certain of the exact significance of these things, but they are very unusual.
So he's talking about the clothing in the water, maybe a nether weapon, like a stick or something on the south side. I think there was 2 crime scenes there on the south end. So I would say from the south end of the bridge down near the shallow water area, that little sandbar area, and then across the creek. I think that's all considered a crime scene. And there was tape around all those areas too. So we won't spend too much time on Ives. Let's go over to Ron Logan.
Here or anywhere else anymore.
Ron Logan is now in custody on an unrelated probation violation. I recently spoke to him about the murders.
You just cannot believe this terrible thing that happened to the community and the families actually happened here on my property in my backyard.
He told me he has an alibi, buying tropical fish 20 miles away.
See, I was not home during the time that all this was happening. I was in Lafayette.
Yeah.
And I didn't get home till approximately 6:30 in the evening. And then the neighbor stopped to ask for permission to look back here for the girl.
Liberty German shot this chilling image of the suspected killer approaching the girl.
Okay, now if this was a deer camera or a mounted camera on a tree, why would it be pointed in this direction? The only reason for that is it was being used as a security camera, maybe by the Weber property. But why is it facing that direction?
On a hiking trail, and she recorded the killer's voice.
What do you hear on there?
Nothing that I recognize at all. No one. I don't recognize the voice at all.
I asked Ron Logan to repeat those same chilling words.
Down the hill.
And that image of the suspect?
The picture is of such poor quality, it doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen.
Police have not revealed what led them to search his home, but said in a statement, "We basically are here to try to eliminate him or put him as a higher suspect in our case." Ron Logan told me he is devastated by the discovery of the bodies on his property.
That was like being hit with a bolt of lightning on my property. Are you? I mean, you just can't put words to it.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. Hiawatha. Nick Houck sold the gun that killed Tommy Rogers to an undercover FBI agent. And it ended up right in the courtroom, just like I said. And he tried to sell it under a fake name. Perfect example right there. Tried to sell it under a fake name. FBI still got their hands on it. And when he got busted, there was the gun sitting right on the table. Good point, Hiawatha. Me too, Beach Fairy. And I was the first one to say, let's see the transcript. I don't want to jump the gun because we don't want it to be something like this. We don't want it to be one of these kinds of confessions.
What? At what point did you shoot the clerk?
I shot the clerk.
Yes, when did you shoot him?
I shot the clerk.
Hey, Dean, you need
right? That was 3 confessions right there. I shot the clerk? Yeah, when? Wait, I shot the clerk? So I want to see the transcripts. But now I know that the defense, they're not leaking them in one of these weird filings that they do. And that's the only reason they put this information in those filings. It's because they know that social media will grab onto it and spread it like the plague. And that's really what it is. It's got like a spike protein that attaches to a mind virus. Hey, what's up, Jessica?
Of those 2 Indiana girls who disappeared while hiking, and it involves the owner of the property where their bodies were found. Eyewitness News reporter Rob Elgus here with the story.
Ronald Logan has never been named a suspect in the girls' killings, but the FBI and state police did search his property in the weeks after Liberty German and Abigail Williams were found dead. And court documents show Logan visited a dump site the day the friends went missing. Handcuffed and shackled, Ronald Logan pleaded guilty to a felony charge of being a habitual traffic violator today. Logan admitted to driving on a suspended license and drinking alcohol, violations of his probation.
Let's go to Jennifer. She says Alice in Wonderland. I think you're referring to what was it, Haley Schneider? That was a Pinterest that was created under the Rick Allen 1972. Is that what that's from? Alice in Wonderland. I wonder if that means anything.
Prosecutors also say the 77-year-old drove to a dump site the same day 14-year-old Libby German and 13-year-old Abby Williams disappeared. Logan spoke to reporters after the girls' bodies were found on his property.
It's been violated horribly, and I just don't know that your home being your sanctuary is, I don't feel that way about it anymore. It's very concerning.
Logan is not considered a suspect, and investigators have used 2 clues to try and dig up leads. This photo was snapped by one of the girls. It shows a man walking on a bridge. And this chilling audio was recorded on Liberty's cell phone. It's looped in this clip. Downhill. Prosecutors did not reveal the time of day Logan went to that dump site. Residents can drop trash and recyclables there. Indiana State Police.
Oh, yeah, the dump site. We'll take a look at that. Fig was able to get his hands on the actual CCTV footage of Richard Allen at the dump site. Shout out to Fig Solves. I don't think I've seen that, Stephanie. There's another account with Valentine's stuff for kids and pics of little kids under an account named Richard M. Allen. The bottle was not marked poison, a reference from Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, I wonder what that means. Does that mean anything? Is it a clue or just... I wonder why Abby... It could... Look, if you're looking hard enough, you'll find anything. You can find anything if you look hard enough. We're not looking at just anything. We're looking at through the entire internet. You're going to run across these weird combinations of information. Rick Allen 72. Who knows? Maybe that was a Rick Allen concert. They met Rick Allen at a concert in 72. He's a famous drummer. Who knows? And then they just happen to be talking about, maybe they have a daughter named Abby. And for whatever reason, they're talking about that. Alice in Wonderland. Or it's, Richard Allen and some weird shit's going on. What's the AutoZone thing? I must have missed this. Well, when they leaked the discovery out to a guy named, I think his name was Brandon Woodhouse, he shared a lot of that. Now, what it was a hard drive key. The hard drive key is basically you plug it in and it's a map. It maps out all you got to do is type in certain things and you can find all of the information within that hard drive about that topic. And this is basically the index. And that was shared with quite a few people. And on there it says AutoZone, Peru AutoZone interview. Unsilent Bob 420. Thank you, sir. Says this has been an excellent series, Sleuth. Thanks so much for your efforts in getting justice for Abby and Libby. Thank you for sponsoring today's live stream. I think it's important to tell the whole story, even if it doesn't fit my narrative, right? Let's tell the whole story. Let's go to that video that Fig was able to get his hands on here. This is at about 11:50, 12-ish, 12 a.m. The morning of the day of the murders. An hour and a half from this time, Richard Allen is supposedly pulling into the CPS building. 15 minutes after that, Abby and Libby will be dropped off. So this is him not too long before the murders. Not quite sure what that means, but you can see how he's dressed, and he's not really dressed like the bridge guy. Let's look at some of these comparisons I did.
You just cannot believe this terrible thing that happened to the community and the families actually happened here on my property in my backyard.
Guys, down the hill.
Down the hill. You just cannot believe this terrible thing that happened to the community and the families actually happened here on my property in my backyard.
Guys, down the hill.
Down the hill.
Yeah, it's donated. Jessica, certain people donate to it. I think Pat McAfee donated a big chunk to it.
Walking through with Ron Logan today. He's showing us the property. He knows this treacherous terrain better than anyone. So in order to get down there, like I mentioned, went down a large ravine that was so steep we pretty much had to walk sideways to get down that way. And this is where the girls were found. It's less than half a mile from the Monon High Bridge where they were last seen on Monday. Officers still processing evidence that they gathered here. They were out here for hours ever since those girls went missing. They're looking for any clue that could lead to the person or persons who killed 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German.
Let's go to this comment right here. Beach Fairy says, the girl in that Haley Schneider profile is Alicia Moffett. Wow. So it is a catfish or a bot spam account. I don't know a whole lot about that. But that's weird. If that picture, if they're lying and saying that they have a different name, Haley Schneider. That's pretty interesting.
The scene may be clear tonight, but Logan tells me his property won't ever be the same.
I want to show you everything, how they could have got.
Let's go to Jamie Hicks. Good to see you, Jamie, my friend. I hope it is wife Lilith. I noticed the defense daddy trolls targeting her again. Makes sense. Also, have you seen the conflict between her and Rick Snay? Like, they're going at it big time. And I think Rick Snay is friends with Tony Klein. He does, And when it comes to Rick Snay, he has a point. Like, there really isn't anything on Tony Klein. There really isn't. But the relationship between Rick Snay and wife Lilith, they're like at war. And the fact that she's accusing Keegan Klein and I'm saying she might be the person to receive a reward, him being friends with Tony Klein, and then them going at it. I don't know if there's a correlation there or not, but just something I'm noticing.
Not here, because you're going to be as confused as I am. How did these two little girls get here?
This is proof that Ron Logan is part of the Odin crew. You see how he puts all the runes back here on this hill? I mean, he puts them everywhere. Looks like there's a deer stand right here, too. Is that what that is?
From the height?
Yeah, it looks like right there.
A bridge with all this rough terrain without somebody making them come here. The high bridge is right across the creek here. It runs all the way down where this creek and the land joins together. Where they join together is the last photographs taken of the girls. So they had to come all the way through this territory.
Good to see you, Jamie. The Midnight Rider says the FBI put in 25,000. IAG Todd Rokita put in 9,000. Indianapolis coach Jonah Jim Irsay and former Colts kicker Pat McAfee put in 97. And there's an anonymous 100K. The anonymous 100K was taken off. That was from Bruiser. He passed away. I'm sure his wife needs that money.
Mind-boggling.
Later, when someone used social media claiming Logan resembles investigator.
This is the Ron Logan pouch. So take a close look at the pouch here on the bridge guy. And notice Ron Logan has something very similar hanging down right here. Not quite sure what that is. He has it on his left side. Blue jacket, weird hat, blue jeans, and thing hanging down beneath his jacket. He's obviously the bridge guy, right? Look at that. Now, if he had his hand tucked up underneath that coat, would we be seeing some kind of brown leathery pouch?
All I can tell you, they were in the center of that tape. If you see it, it goes around in a loop.
That's your property up to the water? Or
Yes,
where does your
up to the
line
property.
Up to the water?
Right up to the property.
Right up to the property. He says right up to the water. He says, yeah, right up to the property. Do you mean to the water line? Right up to the water? Yeah, right up to the property.
Half a mile all the way along the creek is belongs to this 40 acres.
How far are we from the Monon High Bridge?
Right over there, you can see it. You walk down a little bit farther.
He's not as nice to this guy as he was to Alexis McAdams and Barbara. He's all, look,
It's about
motherfucker.
1/8 of a mile on the other side of that creek, and it runs like this. This ground runs like that. The creek makes a bend. It all comes together right down there across from that brick house. And that's the last pictures they had at the end of the bridge. So how in the world they got all through all that down to here?
So the bridge is right over there?
Yes.
How difficult, I mean, you know this land better, 53 years here, right?
Yeah.
How difficult is that to get from the bridge to that area?
On this side, very difficult. Very difficult.
Man, you notice Ron Logan's out of breath. Yeah, and that's stuff that I think will come out in court, Miss Thing. So Ron Logan was about 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1". Paul Holes is 5'9". And here's a photo from him on the bridge. And he's obviously taller than the bridge guy. Not by much, though. Almost very close. But you can kind of see how much bigger Ron Logan was. Here are some photos they took during the search. The first search. This is part of the Ron Logan conspiracy. The item here on the ground. And then they believe the DNA was covered up with this orange stuff. But we haven't heard any of that in any of the information released to the public. But that was the conspiracy. And that's how he got away with it. I don't think there's any reason to go over any more information on Ron Logan. Not going to spend time reading the affidavit or any of that. All right, let's move on to the RTV6 coverage. Okay, so we know that they were en route at about 12:40. The girls were discovered at 12:15. So the footage that you're seeing is roughly between 12:40 and 1 o'clock. Because if you see here, they say heading to the scene. Timestamp 12:40. So they probably got there anywhere between 12:45 and 1 o'clock. Now there, you can actually you can hear the radio chatter on the chopper, and if you enhance it, here at the beginning it says, "Be advised, we're getting word that just below or just south of the cemetery that the bodies are exposed. So be careful when you're around there." And then I think they say, "Copy that." Curious one. That's what I think too. And that tells me that she definitely knew something. What's up, Sensei? Right? They are. That's fine. Good reference. Good reference, Mustang. Yeah, I don't know, Cindy. I feel like it's one of those things time will tell. Maybe one day all those fools will become wise, and all those thought to be wise will become fools. Never gonna let him catch me, no. The Midnight Rider. Rider on the storm. That's a good one too, Christine. Riders on the storm. It's the Doors. Yeah, Cindy, and I think that's the frustration trying to use him as a witness. Like, man, I wish we could use what you're telling me, but you're a piece of shit liar and a child sex offender. Like, you better prove it to us. It looks like ST3. And I feel like it has to be connected to the Wabash River search. But I could be wrong about that. It could be a coincidence. It could be them just making extra efforts, going back to things that they wish they had done, followed up on certain tips. Maybe they just had maybe they got through a lot of their tips now and they had some extra time to focus in on certain things. And it panned out. Could be including searching the Wabash and other searches that didn't turn up anything, but also going back and looking at older tips. Going back to the beginning, so to speak. Yeah, and that's most likely the case, the Midnight Rider. But that's not what the prosecution believes. And that's not the way I'm leaning either. But yeah, you're most likely right. Statistically, that's the safe bet. And all of the rest surrounding it could be sensationalism. But I've considered that, and I'm just not sure about that. Anna says, if Delphi was to silence a threat, could the same apply for Flora? I've always believed that, especially with what was going on with Joe Sandifer, who owned the Flora Pizza King. Remember, the Flora Pizza King was right across the street from the Flora Firehouse. And the eldest girl, I believe, was 12. And Joe Sandifer got in trouble for having a sexual relation or inappropriately touching a 13-year-old girl. So maybe he was having a relationship with this young lady and killed them in a fire. There's no evidence to lead that, but it definitely was intentional. And there was a lot of adults in the home that also could have been targeted. Never ending story, huh, Charlotte? Anna says when KK lips are moving, he tends to be lying. Yeah, he lives completely in a fantasy land. If he has actual information, like President Reagan used to say, trust but verify. Yeah, I think they were all ears, but if you see right here, look how shallow this is. And I have a feeling the majority of the crime took place over here. And you can't run this direction because there's a cliff face right here. You can't run back up the bridge because the killer is standing right here pointing a gun at you. So the only viable option is through this shallow water that you know is somewhat shallow. You've been down here before. So either there was an assault here that took place where the girls were asked to take the clothes off, and that could explain the weirdness with the clothing, or that could have been something Richard Allen did. And it could only be the hoodie, right? That could maybe the only piece that he placed back on Abby or she put back on herself before she went to investigate what happened to her friend and then only to be killed herself. But here, all these people are standing in the middle of the creek and the water's only up to below their knees. And you can see the sandbar right down the middle. And right here where these gentlemen are standing is where the girls were located, right over here. Somewhere in this area right here. Yeah, I think so, ST3. That's all they were waiting for, a match. I don't think they thought Richard Allen would come back as their guy. I don't think they were expecting it. It was a routine search. Hey, Rain Dancer. Oh, yeah. In one way or the other, right, Anna? Yeah, and the person doesn't have to actually commit the physical act. They could be committing this act for sexual reasons to enjoy later through visualization. That's why they take trophies. Dealing with very strange people. Think about Ted Bundy. It's all fantasy driven. There was one of his victims he picked up. She had a head covering on. And he said, wait a minute. Can you take your head covering off? And this was after he told her, like, you're not going to survive this. You should have never gotten the vehicle. He says, take off your head covering. She takes it off and she had cut her hair very short. That killed everything for him. Everything is a visual for him. Fantasy. She had ruined the main ingredient of whatever triggers him. And we found out later that his trigger was women that looked like his first love, his first real relationship, his ex-girlfriend. So everybody that he targeted looked like her. I wonder if he fantasized about killing her but couldn't. So killed other women instead. And that gun was kept quiet for 8 years. Yeah, great job by that law enforcement team. Hey, Candace, I think I missed you earlier. I always thought it was interesting that Ron Logan says down the hill, his voice goes up at the end. I don't know. I think Ron Logan's voice sounds very similar to the down the hill. But I think it should. You know, he's an elderly man. He's from that region. But I don't think that it sounds, I don't think it's a match, but it's similar. Thanks again, Unsilent Bob 420. Fire in the bowl, by the way. Crow 740. Wasn't there something about a white King cab pickup with gray primer? We covered that in part 9. That was related to a 2011 ski mask incident with a tall, 6 foot tall, skinny person. And apparently his pickup was white with gray primer. I don't know about in relation to the Delphi case. Shelly says, that's Ron Logan. Look how short Ron Logan looks with those reporters. Yeah, he's not very tall. He's barely like 6 foot. Compared to me, that's tall. But average height, I think, is 5'8", 5'10". And he's right. He's close to that. He's close to the 5'10" mark. I would say he's between 5'10" and 6 foot. Hey, Amelia. I can't wait until wife Lola gets the respect she deserves for her part in getting justice for the girls. Awesomeness, justice is coming. Yeah, and could very well, we will learn the actual story of what happened. Cindy. Miss Dog Lover. He used to be best buddies with Lilith. Yeah, they seem like mortal enemies now. It's like the blood in the crypts. Set tripping. What's up, Shimona? Hopefully I said that right. H. Nixon. I definitely think there's a correlation between wife and Snay and why they hate each other. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm convinced Tony is associated with CSAM. Don't even try to change my mind. According to Keegan, he is, but I haven't seen any proof. And we know that Keegan is a liar. So if what he's saying is true, he would definitely have to prove it to law enforcement. And if he was able to do that, I think that Tony would be in cuffs. Hiawatha, what's up? Sleuth, you know I'm still on the fence about Allen's guilt, but I had never seen the Rick Allen Hill Facebook post made before his arrest. That is quite telling if it's indeed him. And it may not be. Remember, we have a microscope on the entire world, but these were focused in on Delphi Facebook chats. And this is somebody that I remember personally. And it did not click until a year after Richard Allen was arrested. I remember, oh shit, Rick Allen Hill. That's the guy who was in all the Facebook groups. Now, he never made any posts. He wouldn't post. But whenever they would talk about the video or the audio, he was always asking questions about a gun. So it makes you think Richard Allen. You know, he wanted to know, do I have to get rid of my beloved Sig Sauer? The inaccurate alleged confessions. I'm so ready for this trial. I can't wrap my mind around all the information. The inaccurate alleged confessions, in my opinion, those are the most recent confessions. Very similar to his interview with Holman, where he said, I didn't shoot those girls. Well, we know. Everybody knows the girls weren't shot. So why would you say that? So the The confessions that I think would be the most telling are the ones when he was the most comfortable. One where he was at that point where, okay, they got me and he needs some kind of relief. I got to get this off my chest. Because he couldn't breathe, I guarantee it, if he's guilty. So I would wait until we get the transcripts from the confessions to his wife and mother. Because it says here that he confessed as charged. So that would not include anything about shooting anybody. It would be I stabbed them, I attempted to sexually assault them, and then I stabbed them to keep them quiet. He may have even tried to shoot them. The bullet was found right by Libby, so he most likely attacked Abby, chased Libby, either cycled around trying to scare her, like, you better stop or I will shoot you, or they just fought in the creek, went through the mud, she got away. Because if he's wearing his shoes, it's going to be slippery on those rocks because of the moss and all that shit. But on bare feet, you're going to have better traction. So I think she was able to get away for some bit, create some space. And when he caught her, he cycled around, threatened her, or they fought and he even attempted to shoot her and it didn't work and misfired. And then he reloaded another round or something. But I think he most likely did it to threaten her. It's very intimidating. And he saw how it worked the first time. We know that on the bridge, that's what he did. He chambered around. And that scared them enough to get them down off that bridge and down to the water. So why wouldn't it scare her again if he did it more aggressive and after hurting Abby? I believe Abby was already attacked at that time. So the reason you find the unspent bullet between the girls is because Abby was killed, or Libby was killed right where she was found. That's why she had no clothing on. That's why she had blood on her hands. It was from the wound in her neck, and she touched the tree. Bloody hands, handprint. 4 feet off the ground is exactly where a 5'5" person would put their hand straight out. And then she fell quickly. We've learned that a wound to the jugular, you're gone within minutes, probably within a minute or two. So where she fell with her arm up in that way is because she had that arm against the tree at one point. And then the blood leaving so quickly, she became dizzy, fell backwards, and the arm fell above her head because she at first had it extended onto the tree. But before she knew it, she was losing consciousness and falling backwards, and that's why the hand fell the way it did. Richard Allen didn't move her, didn't do anything but cover her, but went back to get Abby. He went back and got her because he knows he can now hear people on the bridge coming, coming onto the trail system, people yelling. But even before that, I think he was already moving her. And had already, I think before anybody got to that bridge, I think he had moved her across the water and next to Libby. So he didn't realize that the bullet was sitting there the whole time. So while he's doing all this staging of the crime scene and moving one of the victims, the bullet is just sitting right there. And also the phone was found underneath Abby. So if he's dragging her, which he most likely is, from under her arms, he probably pulled her right over the cell phone. Or put it underneath her because it wouldn't stop ringing. Hey, what's up, Brian? All right, Brian, were you at the trails that day? Between 1:30 and 3:30? That might be enough to search your home. Honestly. If you match the description. Hey, Julian. Yeah, I think so, Cindy. In a 2000, I think 15 or 16 DWI that Richard Allen had, if you go read the affidavit for arrest, he tried to come up with an alibi then. So that's like his MO. That's what he does. Maybe prior to that, he got away with a lot of shit, you know? Hey, be my alibi. All right. Todd says it's physically impossible for Ron Logan to be the bridge guy. All right, let's get moving on here. Let's go over to this is some investigative work I did on folks who are selling CSAM. This has to do with the Dropbox. Now, what they do is they use programs called, and I wanted to educate my viewers on some things that I learned myself. They use programs like Wicker, WICKR. They use Discord, and they use a program called Mega. But Mega and Wicker, they create these encrypted links, and they'll put them in a Dropbox. So I figure if Richard Allen is somehow connected with Keegan Kline, it's through something like this. So what you would do is you would drop the link into the Dropbox. You click on the link, and it says for $100, you can buy this link. And you're the only person who can purchase it. Once you purchase it, it vanishes. It's gone. It's yours now. Nobody can find it. And if they get their hands on it, it's fully encrypted. You now purchase the key to that. So I had a feeling that maybe they kind of knew who the killer was. They knew that the killer was connected to this Dropbox, and that's why they were using the FBI kind of watching Keegan Kline to see if he communicates. And maybe he did. Maybe that's how law enforcement knew, hey, you want to know what we know. Maybe there was a communication between somebody like the Haley Schneider reaching out to Keegan Kline. Like, hey, what do you know? What have you found out? Or this is what I know, or they don't even know it, but I work in Delphi. We believe you are hiding in plain sight. May even work in Delphi. So there may be some communications, but just not any identifiers of who this person is.
Accused of uploading more than 20 images of child pornography online and sharing it using a popular gaming app called Discord. News 5's Cody Long joins us live tonight from the Escambia County Jail, where the suspect is right now. Cody.
Yeah, Roseanne, and some of the information in that arrest report is just too graphic to report, so we won't go into detail. But tonight, the suspect is here in the jail after a 5-month investigation.
Hey, Yankee.
21-year-old Dylan Ellis is charged with 20 counts of possession of child pornography. Investigators say he uploaded inappropriate pictures and video of children as young as 3. He allegedly used a gaming app called Discord that allows gamers to communicate with others online. The uploads happened in July when Ellis was living with family in Washington State. Law enforcement there notified the Escambia County Sheriff's Office about the information they had. A search warrant revealed more than 250 files, some of those animations, others were pictures and videos of real children. It's not believed that he knew any of those victims personally. Ellis told an undercover investigator through Discord that he had 120 gigabytes of video and pictures of various ages. And he was...
Yeah, you can argue that all you want, Midnight Rider. You're obviously a hater of Bruiser, and that's why you won't accept it. Say one more thing about him, I'll kick your ass out of here.
Federal custody tonight, accused of sexually abusing infants and toddlers because she enjoyed it. That's what court records say. Rachel Walker told an undercover FBI agent. She also admitted to being a bit sadistic at times because, quote, the crying gets her more excited. This all played out on messaging apps that your teenager may have on their phone right now. Tonight, Local 24 News reporter Rebecca Butcher is here with a closer look at the dangers. Rebecca.
Richard, Kik is an app that allows secret messages. It's the same app that a former East Tennessee principal is accused of using to send child porn and make arrangements to sexually abuse a baby. It's also an app used by a third of all teens here in America. Rachel Walker appeared in federal court Tuesday. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but we have the court records too explicit to detail what she's accused of doing to a 2-year-old boy and a 1-year-old girl. We can't share. The records state she went to a group on the Kik app for people interested in violent sex acts. She then shared pictures and video images of the abuse on another app called Wicker, unknowingly sending them to an undercover FBI agent.
What we've seen with predators is that whatever is popular with children, they're going to gravitate to that.
FBI special agent in charge, M.A. Myers, says the number of online platforms where strangers are lurking for kids has only grown. Authorities warn that children can possibly be just a quick post, share, or like away from being exploited or sexually abused by predators waiting on social media.
We do find that it does make our job more difficult when people
Thanks,
are using
Shane.
encrypted apps. So we encourage parents to teach their children not to communicate with people they do not know personally.
Investigators say the child porn Walker is accused of sending was of children from Memphis. Beryl White works at the Memphis Child Advocacy Center, which provides a safe haven for child victims of sexual abuse. She says in Shelby County, abuse is twice as high as the national average, also warning parents about 30% of offenders are family members.
They might befriend the child and they might befriend even parents so that they can gain unsupervised access to that child.
The Memphis Child Advocacy Center provides free training to people on abuse prevention training. We posted a link in the Find It section that's on our website, localmemphis.com.
Yeah, and they use these weird catfish accounts. So that's why we were looking closely at the Haley Schneider account, which seems to be under a Rick Allen 1972. I believe that was also the name of his Hotmail account.
Wanted to pull up a target. So this target here is in New York. What's of interest to me is they're trading over 1,800 images of children that are 12 and younger.
I always thought this guy is really going to live his best life.
Real quick, let's go to according to, is that Lene? I never understood what a Dropbox was. Thank you for explaining it. So basically a Dropbox is for anybody who wants to share like a large file. Have you ever tried to send like a video file and your email provider says, oh, well, your file's too large, we can't send it? Well, what you'll do is you'll set up your Dropbox and then you can place your large file in there and then provide somebody with the code or the password and then they can grab it on their end. It's used by a lot of business to business, and musicians use it a lot too, to transfer their music maybe to an engineer or something like that. Something you couldn't just send through a regular email.
Having done the things that he's done with no consequence.
In November 2015, Ronnie Williams got a call from her parents.
I remember my heart was palpitating. I remember my hands getting sweaty.
Her half-brother, Marshall Lugo, had been arrested on child pornography charges.
And I remember jumping on the computer right away and Googling it.
Yep.
And it was true. And there was right there on the picture of my brother.
Thank you, Lynette.
I believe it was like his mugshot, picture of him and the story and the news story. I was like, wow, this is real.
Ronnie got in touch with the investigator on the case.
And I went on to explain to them that I was a victim of child molestation for many years.
See, things change. Loyalties change over time. Something that she was able to suppress that may have been affecting her personal relationships. After she saw the person get arrested, she had confidence to come forward.
By him.
Lugo and his attorney did not respond to a request for comment. The police found Lugo using the Child Protection System, a technology developed by a nonprofit called the Child Rescue Coalition. It's a tool that helps law enforcement track and identify people who download and share child sex abuse material online.
The target that I mentioned, we can actually click on. So this gives the investigator a full view of this predator. So we categorize all the different files that they're tracking.
The files that the CPS tracks are images that have already been flagged by law enforcement and determined to depict minors. The material typically comes from devices seized from suspects. This, police say, rules out some material that either isn't illegal or isn't a priority for prosecution, like minors consensually sexting other minors. Once the images have been reviewed by law enforcement, they're turned into unique codes called hashes. And those hashes are cataloged into the Child Protection System's growing database. Right now, the database has more than 1 million hashed images and videos, which it uses to find computers that have downloaded them. According to the Child Rescue Coalition, the software is able to track IP addresses in individual devices and can follow devices even if the owner moves locations or uses a VPN to mask the IP address.
So this offender has 1,800 child notable, that's 12 and younger victims being abused, 12 and under.
And I feel like they're watching this in real time. I mean, this is happening so much across the world that they have systems where they're tracking millions and millions of transactions between people. And we also covered a story where people were being arrested. These were people who were adopting children specifically for CSAM purposes. And I'm talking violent sexual acts, things like that.
This is actually showing us that this offender is actually in multiple different networks. So I know by looking at this, they're in 2 peer-to-peer networks and 2 chat-based networks.
No, it's not like using a torrent.
Clicking on it, we're actually able to see the file names as they exist on the offender's hard drive. I see common acronyms like PTHC, which is preteen hardcore, that they're typing in. And I'm even seeing as young as a 5-year-old victim. Another thing that we see here is that this offender also has one file that we categorize as one of our specials. So these are actually grooming materials, such as how-to documents of how to gain access to children, how to be a better predator.
Yeah, and you guys, as parents, you need to be careful because what these predators will do is they'll come to your children as, as a preteen. No, I'm 13 or I'm 12 years old. My name is Jennifer. This, and that. And they'll spend a whole lot of time gaining the trust of your child. And then they'll start telling your child things like, your parents don't want us to be friends. They don't want you to make friends online. They're going to tell you that you need to stop being my friend because you don't know who I am. They're going to try to keep us apart. At some point in time, your parents are going to come to you and they're going to ask you, hey, have you been talking to people online? Well, if you're my real friend, you won't tell them that you met me online. These are the things that you need to say to your parents. That way we can continue communicating. And that way this person can keep getting closer and closer and closer and closer and continue grooming and grooming until they get them to leave the home one night and then they're never seen again.
None of this information is enough to make an arrest. Instead, it's used to help police establish a probable cause for a search warrant.
There's a huge connection between people who are downloading child sexual abuse material and then go on to a hands-on abuse. And a lot of times we're seeing that children are too young to come forward. There's not enough evidence to convict them when it's a victim only as the evidence. And so this is a huge proactive way in identifying who these people are.
Thanks.
Já caiu no Twitter já, o Polícia Civil fazendo operação contra a pedofilia.
On February 18th, child protection system technology was used to coordinate a 5-country bust from an operations room in Brazil. Using CPS tech, police in Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Paraguay, and Bolivia, along with U.S. Homeland Security, arrested 112 people for allegedly downloading child abuse images and seized their computers.
Qualquer? Nem computador físico, nada? Físico ele tem, mas tem um MacBook e monte de tablet. Vai ser Mac.
Bom, a tecnologia ela tem vindo aqui para auxiliar todos nós no nosso dia a dia, facilitar nossas tarefas. E os criminosos também têm se aproveitado dessa tecnologia para alcançar o maior número de vítimas. A polícia tem avançado, tem utilizado tecnologias que são extremamente importantes na elucidação desses fatos.
Currently, the technology is used by law enforcement in all 50 states and in 96 countries. But the Child Rescue Coalition hopes to expand that use even further, beyond law enforcement, by licensing it to social media companies and other online platforms.
So we've had a really successful partnership with a national babysitting and caregiver platform. And we've been able to identify predators that are using their site to be applicants of babysitters who are looking to abuse children. One example, for instance,
babysitters. They're finding that a lot of these babysitters are responsible for a large part of the CSAM that's circulating. So when you hire your babysitter, make sure you put in those. Not only do you install the nanny cams, tell the applicant that you have cameras. I have cameras all over my house. That way you're not at risk at all. Yeah, you might catch it, but you don't want it to happen to begin with. So tell these sons of guns, sons of the B word, right? That I have cameras all over this mofo. I'm watching you. And if they're a creep, they're not going to waste their time.
Was seen trying to be a babysitter. It was a male provider. And they had also been trading child exploitation in these peer-to-peer networks that we're tracking. And we were successfully able to put a stop to that.
But some civil liberties experts have raised concerns about a lack of oversight. In 2019, Human Rights Watch published an open letter to the Department of Justice calling for more third-party testing of the technology.
All right. Because of time, we're going to move on. I just wanted to make sure we touched on how these people were perpetrating and getting to children and the way they operate. Let me see. Maybe I have one more article here. FBI forced a suspect to unlock Amazon's encrypted Wicker with their face. And the term Wicker is kind of strange, right? Where do we hear that? You know, in the Wiccan religion, but most importantly with the son of Sam, you remember? The Wicked King Wicker. The Duke of Death. The 22 Disciples of Hell. John Wheaties, rapist and suffocator of young girls. It's almost like a demonic spirit.
A satanic cult has been instructed by their high command, Satan, to systematically kill and slaughter young girls.
See, let's take a look at the article. FBI forced a suspect to unlock Amazon's encrypted app Wicker with their face. The feds are using an unprecedented type of search warrant to obtain encrypted communications that the agency says are nearly impossible to access otherwise. In November last year, an undercover agent with the FBI was inside a group on Amazon-owned messaging app Wicker, owned by Amazon. Interesting. with a name referencing young girls. The group was devoted to sharing child CSAM within the protection of the encrypted app, which is also used by the U.S. government, journalists, and activists for private communications. Encryption makes it almost impossible for law enforcement to intercept messages over Wicker. But this agent had found a way to infiltrate the chat where they could start piecing together who was sharing material. Excuse me. Secure communications provider Wicker has announced that it will shutter its free encrypted messaging app, WickerMe, next year. Wicker was founded in 2011 and became one of the first mainstream end-to-end encrypted messaging apps, right? These CSAMers, that's what they want. That's what they need to operate. Until it was acquired by Amazon's cloud service giant Amazon Web Services in 2021. So it looks like Amazon is the one who put plans to shut it down after they realized what it was. Let's take a look at Mega. So this is Mega is where you can create an encrypted link and you can actually put a price tag on it. And this would be the link you would put in the Dropbox to share with other CSAMers. So just because we don't know Richard Allen is connected doesn't mean that they found some kind of a connection to one of the largest CSAM rings in Indiana's history. Could be H. Nixon. He could be. That's what happened to Alicia Navarro. She was a gamer, autistic child. She was groomed and lured out of her home. But the strange thing is she's still with her groomer. She's still with the guy. I believe they're living in Canada. That's sad, Mustang. I'm sorry. Real life nightmare. Yeah, just to say hi or, hey, I bought you something. He's waiting for his friend. And, you know, just like Abby and Libby, here's some creep like that knows inside information, right? Like these incels, they go to these dates after they catfish somebody that has been ignoring them or swiping left or right to them. And then they meet him and go, oh, what are you here? You're meeting your supermodel boyfriend, your supermodel date? They act psycho. Like, oh, you like me when I'm a championship swimmer for UCLA, but you didn't like me when I was a short, chubby, balding gamer nerd. So I have a feeling that could have been what Richard Allen was doing too. What are you expecting your boyfriend, your hot model boyfriend? Well, guess what? That was me. Something like that, maybe. Okay, now we're moving on to the sequence of February events. Now, I created this calendar shortly after the Keegan Kline and Anthony Schatz information, after we did our investigation on the timeline. And that's what will be presented here for you. Robin B. Sleuth there are computer programs that parents can install on their children's computers so the parents can monitor. Not that I know of, but there are settings And what we do at home is we constantly check up and we look into and we make sure the settings are still correct. And there's certain games like Roblox and stuff like that. I wouldn't let your children even play those games unless you know exactly that you're in control, because people can just pop up on those and say hello, and then your child will say, oh, hi. And then these predators are extremely patient. So over a long period of time, that might even be all they say. And then the next day it's like, hi, remember me? And then your child will be like, oh, hi, yeah, I remember you. And then that's it. 2 days later, hey, it's you again. Do you want to be my friend? Sure, click this button. Now they're friends. So over the next month, they're asking about your pets, about your grandmother's name, mother's maiden name, all of these details that'll help them access the apps of your home, maybe even get in control over your cameras even. So it's all phishing. It's a phishing attempt in grooming. It's very scary. So all you can be is proactive about it. Demand access to the devices. What's this? What's that? Who are you communicating? I would even suggest maybe a sneak attack. Like, hey, I'm not accusing you. We just want to do a quick check and do a little bit of educating here. I think in school now they're using, they call them people predators. For me, it was stranger danger. Now it's people predators. So that I don't know of. I know on the Kindles and the Kindle Fires and the stuff like that, you can put on parental settings that won't allow you to go to certain parts of YouTube or anything like that. Oh, it was a woman. Jeez. They have to be very careful because these guys are very methodical. And they're very patient. And the only reason they're patient is because they're doing it in mass. If we've learned anything from Keegan Kline, he'll tell you, hey, I was catfishing 50 girls a day. So it could just be a numbers game that he happened to be communicating with Abby and Libby, and there really is no connection, right? The only thing is he was talking about meeting Abby and Libby. So it makes me think that, and also when he met Abby and Libby here, so you see February 2017, Friday the 3rd, there was a sleepover. I don't know if Abby was here or not, but Libby was definitely here with a bunch of friends. And Keegan Kline was catfishing a family friend's daughter. So while he was catfishing the daughter, they were sending photos back and forth, and in the background of those photos, you can see Libby. I don't know if it was Abby and Libby, but I know it was Libby for sure. So this is the first time we know of that Keegan Kline and Libby were communicating or met each other. So to me, it seems like maybe somebody else was trying to get in contact with Libby. So was there another communication established here? So this would be the first time they met. And this was another snow day, I believe. Okay, now on the 10th, there was another sleepover. And this is when Keegan claims to have blocked Libby. And records indicate that Keegan deleted his personal iPhone. And this is the only deletion he made. He had all these devices with all this criminal activity on it. But the only thing he deleted was his personal iPhone from this date here, the 10th to the 16th. So the date he would have been grooming Libby, right? It's the weekend again. I got another target while I was messing with this person is Libby. Now, remember, Keegan, when they served a search warrant on his home, they weren't able to find the iPhone. So he didn't turn this phone in until a few days later. I think maybe 2 days, 1 or 2 days after. He returns the phone, and he's deleted everything from the 10th to the 15th. Why? Why did he do that? It's the only thing he deleted out of all of the stuff was his communication and what most likely was the grooming period and luring to the bridge, all the way from the 15th to the 16th. Okay, so following this sleepover, an apparent issue with the Anthony Shots account where she was blocked. So did she piss him off? Did the Anthony Shots account send her money? And then she sent fake nude photos in return? And the killer's going to get his photos? I'm going to get my photos. Is that what was going on at the bridge? Well, following the altercation on the 10th, and also remember on the 3rd, this is around the time her phone was reset. 10 days prior to the crime. So she would have had her phone reset this prior weekend. And then the weekend following that, Keegan is saying he deleted her. And on his personal phone, he removes everything from the 10th to the, I think it might even been to the 15th. Okay. So almost a week goes by after Abby and Libby were murdered. Keegan Klein searches, well, somebody using Keegan Klein's device and his logged into his Facebook, searches Facebook for his friend's family that introduced Keegan to the Anthony Shots, who introduced Libby to the Anthony Shots account. So let's go back to the 3rd. So the family that Keegan Klein was catfishing, and when he met Libby through this person, is now being targeted on the 19th. Where does this person live? On the 20th, we have a ski mask incident involving the family that Keegan searched the day before and introduced Libby to Anthony Shots. So we have on the 19th, Keegan searching that family, the same family that introduced him to Libby. And on 20th, we have somebody in a ski mask looking through the window after one of the family members apparently communicated with the Anthony Shots account. Keegan seems shocked by this. He has no clue about this. And I believe him. If this is a real incident, and they state it is, they could be lying. But we don't know the actual person who made this report. We don't know the county. We don't know where this report was provided. So we can't find the incident report. We don't have enough information on it. Okay. So on the 19th, you have Keegan searching the family for their location. On the 20th, there's a ski mask incident at that location. On the 21st, Keegan and his father fly to Las Vegas. Keegan Klein told law enforcement he packed a secret bag and planned to leave his father in the middle of the night. To me, that tells me Tony Klein may not have information. Why is he sneaking out on his father? Wouldn't he just tell his father, this is the decision I made? Remember, we're going to talk about everything, even if it doesn't fit the narrative. Okay, so the very day that and don't forget, on the 22nd and the 23rd, while they're in Vegas, Keegan Klein is using a burner phone. He's using a burner phone to meet people from Craigslist. He told law enforcement he was doing it for drugs for a buddy of his. First of all, anybody that is moving drugs is not going to reach out to anybody on Craigslist. I don't care what you say. Only an idiot would do that. You might as well just go to the police station and ask anybody if they're interested. 9 out of 10, you're looking at a law enforcement officer, right? So that's what he tells law enforcement that the burner phone was for. I had this burner phone and I was looking up the Delphi stuff, prostitution, Sandy Hook victims, how long does DNA last? I was looking up all this stuff, listening to the voice of the killer. doing all this on these devices here or on a burner phone. And why is he meeting people? What's he doing in Vegas? What's he doing looking up folks being involved in a ski mask incident? Sounds like somebody was trying to tie up loose ends, right? Think about it. If Keegan Kline meets Libby at this sleepover and Keegan Kline is catfishing this person, but he actually knows her father. He's friends with her father and her sister and her brother. Went to school with them. Catfishing her. So if the killer came back on the 19th and says, Keegan, can anybody tell law enforcement connect you to the Anthony Shots account? Well, he's going to go, yeah, maybe. Well, the person that introduced me to Libby, I know their family. So it's possible that she was acting like she didn't know who I was, but knew exactly who I was. So the killer's going to be, okay, so you're saying somebody might be able to tie you to the Anthony Shots account and then in turn will tie me to the Anthony Shots account. Yes. Okay. Show me the address. Boom. Looks it up on the 19th. The 20th perpetrates an attempted assault again, unsuccessfully. And then they try to leave town with something, maybe video and images. They have a connection. Jan Kendall in Vegas was former Indiana law enforcement. Is he a sicko? No, there's no evidence of that. He could be a great man for all we know. But it is strange that he's meeting this man in Vegas on a burner phone while looking up everything involved in the Delphi case and meeting somebody on Craigslist. I feel like this could have to do with CSAM, maybe some type of snuff film. I'm not quite sure. But the day that they come home, the very day, I mean, they're not even home for a few hours. Law enforcement is fully aware of it, and they kick in the doors. Not for CSAM, not for anything that they found on computers. They kick in the doors, and they're serving a search warrant relating to Abby and Libby's murder. Boom, they got him. Keegan Kline flees to Las Vegas later on that year. No charges are raised against him for 3 years. He comes back to Indiana and he is arrested. They never mention it being connected to the Delphi murders. So they're trying a new approach with Keegan, like, hey, we couldn't find anything. We watched you for 3 years. Here's your chance. Tell us what's going on, who's connected, who's the other person using the account. We know it's not you. He fails to tell them, so then they begin a pressure campaign. They say, hey, look, if you don't tell us, we're going to tell the world that you created the Anthony Shots account and that Anthony Shots was communicating with Libby the day that she died, and also that she was planning to meet Anthony Shots. If you don't tell us anything, we're going to let the world know. Keegan Kline said, oh, I don't care. So at 10 p.m. at night, Indiana comes out and tells the world that Libby was communicating with Anthony Shots and that they need help identifying this person, knowing damn well that they knew who it was. They didn't need any help identifying Keegan Kline. What they were hoping for is for somebody to give them another name that was not Keegan Kline, somebody that was using the account, or to give them Keegan Kline's name and let them know that folks are asking about you, Keegan. And sure enough, Keegan Kline told Barbara McDonald that as soon as they dropped the Anthony Shots information, that a friend of his in Texas was calling him and saying, yo, bro, you're all over the news. So I wonder who the friend is in Texas. We know Erskine is in Texas. Is there any connection there? Don't know. All right, let's go to the shack. Okay, now there's 3 shacks. Maybe pull up a map. Maybe that'll help explain it a little better. Okay, the 3 shacks that I know about most likely don't have anything to do with the crime, but I think there's a lot we're going to find out, right, later on. So on Ron Logan's property, I think right about here, somewhere in this general area. Or no, I'm sorry, over here. Or no, even better yet, somewhere along here, he has a barn and a shed. And in 2014, Ron Logan made a call to law enforcement saying that somebody was in his shed. So in the middle of the night, Ron Logan is watching somebody in his shed. 2014. I wonder if, imagine, could that have been Richard Allen? The hell's he doing in there? Most likely not, though, but imagine. Okay, so you have a barn back here. You have another barn right here, right next to the south end. And then you actually have an old, I guess it is a shack right here. So we'll talk about those three. Let's start with this one here. Let's start with the shack over here by the Wilson Bridge. Okay, this photo is by a man named Randy D. Pillion. Now, Randy D. Pillion, he just has a open Facebook, and through my investigations, he actually was right next. He pretty much walked on the south end of the bridge without being over there near the Monon High Bridge. And he got a really good shot of that shack. And notice the mattress. Who brought that down there? Either that's a mattress or maybe a fireplace that fell off the wall right here. Not quite sure. It looks like a mattress to me. But it could be a brick fireplace. Maybe. Kind of looks like a barn. Here's an aerial view of it. This is from the RTV6 footage. You can kind of see where it is right here. Now the crime scene is just down this way here. And Wilson Bridge is just down the creek in this direction. To the left, crime scene to the right. Now this is a different barn. Let me show you where this one is. Let's see. Okay, here's a real short clip, just so we don't get hit with the copyright strike. But this is Julie Melvin. I think the first time she went to the bridge, she's with her husband. We'll react to this. See that? First time they're there, they noticed a deer stand, a deer camera. And her husband says, look, a big red barn. So you see this white thing in the background? That's way out in the distance. The red barn is actually right here, and I'll show you a better view. So this is pretty close right here. So if the killer took them over here, they would have gone down the other hill. So this goes down the hill on the left instead of the right. And you kind of have to walk through all of this. There's a deer stand in here, deer camera somewhere that's been busted. And right behind it is this red barn. Well, let's take a look inside the red barn. Now, the guy who got this footage, and these are screenshots from a YouTuber What he did was he made a video of himself unicycling. He also went in the CPS building. So he starts his video out by walking right into the front door of the CPS building. Wasn't locked or anything. He walks right in, films everything in there. I've showed you guys that already, I think in part 2, maybe even part 1. Well, he films himself crossing the bridge and then going back here into the barn. So he's looking inside that red barn right now. This is what it looks like. So this would be the closest quote unquote shack. Welcome, Dragon Keeper. Got pulled over for speeding. Yeah, all those small towns, I never speed through a small town. Not even the usual 10 over. At the most, I'll go 5 over. But yeah, I'm pretty sure these small towns, a lot of their revenue comes from pulling people over and slapping them with tickets. Okay, so here's a good view into that barn. I don't know if it's historic. It didn't come up on the registry, but it does look like the corn crib. Much bigger though, of course. So here they're obviously just using it for storage. It's like some storm damage over here on the right. So were the girls brought into this area? Not that we know of. But yeah, those are the shacks. Let's move over to the shoe story. And we're almost actually done, guys. We might be done under 4 hours. Big Bird, I think prosecutor about to pull out his cards. Hand over to defense right along with the death penalty. Well, I'm pretty ignorant to that whole process, so I can't advise you guys on what's about to happen. But something, I guess, the supplemental witness list. What's the difference between that and the witness list that's already been provided? Is my question. V says Southern Indiana is bad too with tickets. Mustang, thank you. Justice for Abby and Libby. What's up, CJK? Missed you. You got it, Mustang. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to listen to a podcast called Infamous Indie. Now, Infamous Indie and people like Gray Hughes and all these people, they web sleuths. Shout out to those people. They were the ones who were providing all of the information on the Delphi case early on. They were making connections with people, doing interviews. So shout out to you guys. We're going to listen to a real small clip that relates to the shoe story.
3 of us chose to cross the bridge to look underneath the bridge on the opposite side. And that's where I ended up hearing that we found the bodies.
Okay, so they had 2 searches going. You had Kelsey. She's back again for the second time. She went and searched earlier in that morning, went and worked a half shift at work, came back. And she's now crossed the bridge. They're searching on the private drive and in that area on that side and even below the bridge. And then you have Pat Brown, his wife, and I think another gentleman or another couple, which might have been Erskine and his wife. It may have been 5 people. They're walking from the cemetery, meeting those folks. So as they're walking, they scare 2 deer. They jump up and take off running. At that very moment, somebody on the other side is asking Kelsey what kind of shoes they wear. She tells them. And then at the very moment that Pat Brown scares these deer, somebody on that end sees the deer, pulls up. But first they see footprints kind of leading in a certain direction. Then they see the deer. And then that's when they see the bodies. But at that point, Pat Brown is already there. He's already checking on the girls and asking people to step back, that they're deceased. Somebody communicates that to Kelsey, and she attempts to run across the water. They have to subdue her.
When you were there, do you remember what you saw
At High Bridge?
right when they found the bodies?
Okay, well, first off, I was standing on the trail that's right under the bridge, looking out
Private drive.
into the woods, and somebody yelled up that they had found a shoe. And when they found the shoe, they had asked what kind of shoes the girls were wearing, and they yelled up the type of shoe that Libby was wearing. So I yelled down and told them that. Actually, then the person that had asked that had put up their phone and saw 2 deer in the ground moving, and so he was looking to see what it might be, and he saw 2 deer standing up there, and when he saw them, he moved the camera down, and that's when we found them.
Here was an early report on that same topic. This looks like by Katie Cox. And this was put out February 15th, 2017. 2 bodies found outside of a small community of Delphi, Indiana were positively identified Wednesday as 2 missing Carroll County teens. Liberty Libby German and Abigail Abby Williams were reported missing Monday afternoon after they were dropped off to go hiking near the Monon High Bridge outside of Delphi. Family and friends and rescue crews combed the area through the evening Monday and could not locate the 2 teens. And here's a recent story update here from WRTV. 2 bodies were found by volunteers on Tuesday, less than a mile from where the girls were originally dropped off. The bodies were found on private property about 50 feet from the shore of Deer Creek. Sources tell Call 6 investigates that a set of footprints are what led volunteers to the area the bodies were found. So I'm assuming the footprints were through the mud going up the bank, the embankment there, to the crime scene. Okay, so let's move on to the shoe tree and around the Weber property. And we're almost done, guys. Let's go to Bill. And this is Bill he's from a YouTube channel called the Delphi Timeline. And he provided permission to show this video. So thanks, Bill. I know you're out there, buddy. Okay, now another strange story from Bill here is right before he went down the south end and onto the private drive, when he pulled up into the Mears area, the Mears lot, Brad Weber and a woman pulled up to him and basically were asking him, like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing around here? Who are you? Isn't that strange? Not knowing that in about 15 minutes after their interaction, he would be trespassing on his property.
End of the bridge. Downhill. Down the hill.
Very slippery. No posted signs. So this is where Kelsey would have been standing. And then just below, they would have asked her, hey, what kind of shoes were the girls wearing?
And then another down the hill. Under the bridge.
Okay, let's look at under the bridge. Is it possible? Hold on. Oop, not too far. Okay, is it possible that Richard Allen was already under the bridge? And he can see the girls walking? So then he comes from underneath the bridge back up top, passes them, and then turns around, makes sure nobody's over there, and then forces them down the hill.
So earlier I went up this way, and up that way is somebody's home.
That's
We're
the
not going
Weber
back
property.
that way. We're going to leave this way. And I now have rocks in my shoes.
Now, the reason that Bill has allowed me permission, because I asked him as a favor. So that's why he's kind of complaining. He's like, rocks in my shoes, falling down the hill. Because he's probably pissed off at me. He's already spent all day driving. He live streamed everything. So if you guys want to go to his channel and check that out, there's even a scene where he passes by the CVS building. So it's pretty interesting, guys, to watch it after the fact. But you can kind of hear Bill complaining because I asked him to do this as a favor. So thank you so much. He actually was kind enough to go another place I wanted him to, and he asked me, he's like, is there any specific places you think I should go? I said, well, the two places that I would go if I had the opportunity would be Riley Park, from Riley Park to the bridge, because I heard that there's a way to get back there. They even a search party was checking that area as if the girls had taken that path before. And then I told him to get a good view of the private drive and the shoe tree, and then he did that. Good to see you, Richard. Yeah, thanks, Bill. You the man. Yeah, that's something else I wanted to mention. Good to see you, Farmer. He says at least Weber didn't hold him at gunpoint, but he doesn't have breasts. Exactly. There was multiple women who were held on this property, and the cops had to get involved because Brad was threatening them. Of course, they shouldn't have been on his property, right? And I had a conversation with Anna Williams about this, and she says the same thing. She's like, those people should not be on his property. It's their fault. If anything bad happened, it's because they're trespassing. I do agree with that, but at the same time, every time there's been an incident, it's been women. Like one time there was two women that he would not leave, he wouldn't let leave, and he had a gun with him. And the type of gun is a 6 Sauer 40 cal. We know he owns one. But he had just stopped Bill. He knows Bill is in the area. He knows Bill is on his private drive. Did he confront Bill? No, because he's a guy. What's up with that? Can you see that clearing there? That's where the shoe tree is, and it's bent over the road. There's a sign that says Maple Street. I don't know. This is kind of creepy. It kind of looks like one of those hanging trees. Like where you would hang men. And it's really strange. It's opened up into like a green field right here where the sun comes down into it. A really strange little area right here.
Shoe tree.
And family members told me that this is a memorial. The Webers had one of their family members killed themselves, I believe, by hanging. And this is a memorial to him. I think it's Brad's older brother. And that's what this tree is for. They throw shoes up into the tree. Yeah. Got to finish it, Brad. Got to get everything into the episode 10. We're almost done. I don't know if Weber knows Alan. I don't think so. Pretty sure he knows JP and possibly the other people who were pinging on the south end of the bridge. But I don't know. They all work for Subaru, and it's a huge company, so there's a chance they don't know each other. It's that big of a company. It employs a large percentage of the folks in that area. But you could definitely get a vehicle back here. If you knew that that the homeowners were snowbirds and out of town, which they were, and that Brad Weber worked till 4, you know not to expect anybody on this road. And they didn't keep the gate locked. So I think that it's possible that there could have been a vehicle down there. I mean, why not? Maybe even back here. It didn't have to be pulled up to the bridge. It could just be back on the road somewhere. And there's also roads that you can go off of this path. See right here to the left, there's another road that you can take there. So you could take this back road and probably even hide somewhere back here. It's like a rainforest. Thanks, Farmer. Probably some good fishing right there. Yeah. I want to say that's an understatement, but that is a good representation. Sick fucks. Especially Bundy. Oh, man. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate that. No scrub report today. That's what I like to see. Robin says, went out to Monon High Bridge for the memorial walk. I was amazed at how steep and small tree limbs all around.
Oh,
The
I'm
area
so
is
ready
beautiful.
to stop walking.
Very fence forest. Hey, what's up, Mia? Mia Wallace. Welcome to the Sleuth Crew. Oh, really? Is that somewhere in Washington? Here, let's go back to this part. So I want you guys to notice something. There's no lock on this fence. It's just a chain wrapped around and tied. No lock. It's funny that you say that, Dawn, because I always thought this might have been Weber. Here, let me see if I can pull up this information. That's pretty much the end of that video. Shout out to Bill from Delphi Timeline. So let me go back to this video here of Richard Allen playing pool. And I almost think that this might be Brad Weber. Nope, not that one. The hell is it? Maybe it's in the random folder. Oh yeah, here it is. So let's see if I capture. There's a gentleman that's sitting behind Richard Allen. He's kind of leaning against a pool table. I always thought that that was Brad Weber, but at some point in it, he shakes hands with Richard Allen. So I don't know if this is it. No, this is just him walking. I have it though. Hold on. Bear with me a moment. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm almost 100% sure that this person back here is Brad Weber. See him back here? And he plays pool too. Shout out to Brad for donating, sir. Thank you, Mr. Barfield. Okay, let me see if I can fast forward here. Okay, right there. So you see Richard Allen's buddy, Tony Nebergill, talking with the person who I'm pretty sure is Brad Weber. And he had just come from outside, and we're going to see Richard Allen kind of go and talk to him here in a minute. Richard Allen goes outside. And you can smoke in here, so I don't know why he's going out there. His best friend's talking to Brad Weber. Person I believe is Brad Weber. Let's zoom right. Okay, right here. Okay, notice up here in the left, on the left side of the screen, you have Richard Allen standing right here, his buddy Tony Nebergall, and who I believe is Brad Weber. And they're going to shake hands here in a second. Boom. Dapperooski right there. Do you see that? Here's my buddy Ricky. This is Brad. Dap. I mean, it looks just like him. It even looks like Johnny Walker a little bit. But I think he had already passed at this time. All right. So let's go back. So we're almost done with the Weber property. Here are some photos that were sent to me by actually one of the girls that was actually attacked by Brad Weber sent me these. They were attacked during this visit here. And I think Tobe responded and had to escort them out of there. But notice this balcony right here. And we know that Kim Riley stated that the property up on the hill, if you go out on the back balcony, it overlooks the crime scene. This is the balcony that they're referring to. And notice the religious statues. Looks like Jesus and Mary. Another one here. That might be a tree stump, but it looks like another statue. So it looks like there's 3. 1, 2, 3. And they're facing the crime scene. So I wonder if those were placed there because of what happened. Here's a view from the crime scene over to the Weber property. And there's actually a trail. You can go down the hill right here. And Brad has photos of him fishing right here, camping just down the creek on the other side on a sand, on a beach. Right here, there's a beach area. He has photos of him camping with a lady friend. They have a fire going and everything. He also has an old photo right here, and there used to be a bridge right here. This is right before they were confronted by Brad. They snapped this photo. Here's the bridge right here. So this used to actually lay across this area. And you can walk down from the Weber property and cross right here. But it looks like something happened and that bridge got fucked up. Thank you, KO. Okay. So I do have a folder on the snuff theory, but I did a video on that if you guys want to go watch that. Staged crime scenes is another folder I had here. Here's some of the stuff that was included in there. Serial killer stage victims' bodies with cigar and fur coats. Canadian serial killer stage photos of his male victims' corpses wearing fur coats, leather hats, and holding cigars between their lips. A Toronto court heard Monday. Prosecutor Michael Cantlin described how self-employed landscaper Bruce MacArthur, who admitted last week to killing 8 men as the so-called gay village serial killer, kept an extensive collection of creepy images of his victims. MacArthur, 67, also shaved and stored the facial hair from his victims, Cantlin said. The disturbing revelations were made during the first day of MacArthur's sentencing hearing for 8 counts of first-degree murder. He sexually assaulted, killed, and dismembered men he met in Toronto's gay village neighborhood for 7 years, between 2010 and 2017. Here's another article on another case. Jennifer Blagg. Crime scene expert Jennifer Blagg's killer staged the bedroom. People move bodies to conceal the time of death or other physical evidence from investigators, Ron Walker, a former FBI profiler and crime scene consultant, said. And that's what we've been guessing here on this channel, right? That the killers use the water. And that's why we're having the debate over the DNA. It's because they can't exclude Richard Allen, which I think is huge. I think we'll learn about that later on. But they can't say 100% it's him. They just know it's somebody related to him. The prosecution started to draw conclusions about what happened to Jennifer Blagg when a crime scene expert took the stand Wednesday afternoon. A stranger offender will want to get in and out of the crime scene as quickly as possible. So Richard Allen would have committed the crimes and just left the crime scene the way it was. There would have been no sticks, no nothing. But this is telling us that he has a personal connection for some reason. But he could have made a personal connection, which could have been the reason for the trigger. We know that his daughter looks like a little bit like Libby. A stranger offender will want to get in and out of the crime scene as quickly as possible, said Ron Walker, former FBI profiler and crime scene consultant. This offender appears to have spent some time at the crime scene. Walker, who spent years in the FBI's behavioral scene unit, said it would take a significant amount of time to carefully wrap and move Jennifer Blagg's body in a way that wouldn't leave any blood in the rest of the home. Moving the body also didn't make sense to him if the crime scene was a burglary gone bad. People move bodies to conceal the time of death or other physical evidence from investigators, Walker said. Abstract. The act of leaving a victim's body in an unusual position is a conscious criminal action by an offender to thwart an investigation, shock the finder and investigators of the crime scene, or give perverted pleasure to the killer. The unusual position concepts of posing and staging a murder victim have been documented thoroughly and have been accepted by the courts as a definable phenomenon. One staging case and one posing case are outlined and reveal characteristics of those homicides. From the Washington State Attorney General's Homicide Investigation and Tracking Systems database on murder covering the years 1981 and 2000, a total of 5,224 cases. The relevant frequency of unusual body dispositions is revealed as a very rare occurrence. Only 1.3% of victims are left in an unusual position, with 0.3% being posed and 0.1% being staged. Wow. The characteristics of these types of murders also set them apart compared to all other murders and staged murders. The victims and killers are on average older. All victims and offenders in the staged murders are white, with victims being disproportionately white in murders with any kind of unusual body disposition. Likewise, females stand out as victims when the body is posed, staged, or left in other unusual positions, whereas posed bodies are more likely to include sexual assault. Makes sense. Often in serial murders, there is no evidence of either in the staged cases. Lastly, when a body is left in an unusual position, binding is more likely, as well as the use of more hands-on means of killing the victim, right, with the blade, not the gun, such as stabbing or cutting weapons, bludgeons, ligatures, or hands and feet. Okay, ritual and signature are fantasy-driven, repetitive crime scene behaviors that have been found to occur in serial sexual homicide. Notwithstanding numerous anecdotal case reports, ritual and signature have rarely been studied empirically. In a national sample of 38 offenders and their 162 victims, we examined behavioral and thematic consistency, as well as the evolution and uniqueness of these crime scene actions. The notion that serial sexual murderers engage in the same rituals and leave unique signatures at every scene was not supported by our data. In fact, the results suggest that the crime scene conduct of this group of offenders is fairly complex and varied. Implications of those findings for forensic assessments and criminal investigations are discussed. Since the early case studies of sexual murder by Von Kraft-Ebing, offenders have been reported to engage in various crime scene behaviors that are unnecessary in the commission of the homicide. For example, several of the individuals Von Kraft-Ebing cited not only killed their victims, but filled their mouths with dirt, pulled their hairpins out, pressed their hands together, and subjected them to humiliation and torture, and often took something from them of little value, like underwear or a sock. Authors of other early publications found similar behavior in sexual murderers. Many investigators concluded that these seemingly unnecessary activities, unnecessary meaning for successful accomplishing of the crime, they didn't just kill them and leave, they killed them and then did a bunch of weird stuff, served as a psychological purpose. The offender needed to engage in such actions to feel sexually gratified. Killing the victim was not sufficient. So that's how it becomes a sex crime without any sexual acts. The crime itself is an act, a sexual act for this person. Such crime scene behaviors, which more often than not are repetitive, have been found to be an outgrowth of the perpetrator's deviant sexual fantasies, wherein the murder and the repetitive acts are parts of the offender's sexual arousal pattern. So if we go back to Ted Bundy, we don't know what their triggers are. We don't know what their fantasy is. For him, it had to do with long black hair. As soon as you cut your hair short, it killed everything for him. He was no longer interested. In empirical studies, some have investigated the connection between offenders, deviant sexual fantasies, and how their crimes were carried out. For instance, McCulloch found that 81% of men identified in a British forensic hospital who had committed a sadistic sex crime admitted that their masturbatory fantasies were related to their deviant crime scene behavior. Similarly, Burgess found that 80% of sexual murders identified by the FBI in various U.S. prisons between 1979 and 1983 were reported masturbatory fantasies directly connected to how their offenses were enacted. A relationship between fantasies and crime scene actions have been found by Prinkley in a slightly higher number of sexual killers. So this information may have been the reason that people like Barbara McDonald, after doing their own, and she did great work. She's a great investigative journalist for sure. She uncovered a story from somebody who was locked up with Ron Logan. This person, a known sexual offender and just a scumbag, right? Known scumbag, told Barbara that he was locked up with Ron Logan, and Ron Logan would masturbate on the floor while giving detailed information about the crime scene of Abby and Libby. So that kind of fits with this MO here. So I don't know if that story's true or not, but I believe that the person who was locked up with Ron Logan did say it, whether it's true or not. All right, let's go to the unofficial timeline. This is something I put together here. And it starts at around 12:30-ish because we know that's when 3 of the witnesses were down here by the bridge. Yeah, CJ, I mean, there's no proof. I wouldn't believe that guy, right? We don't believe Keegan Kline. How many times do we say, well, you can't really trust what Keegan Kline says because he's a piece of shit liar? Same goes for this guy. Yeah, I doubt it too. But it could be. Could be true and him still not be a suspect. That's why you can't tell all these stories about straw men and all these bad people. Yeah, they could be bad. Doesn't mean they're the bad guys we're looking for here. Exactly. Fantasies of catching the bad guy. Got to keep those in check too. Attention seeking. Farmer. KK is a lying bitch. But I feel he lies for self-preservation. I think he may have been truthful on a few key details. Problem is no credibility. Yep. I agree with that. What's up, Frank? He is kind of greasy. Oh, that could make a lot of sense, KO. Let's go to this comment real quick. I think a lot of men get off on this story, sadly. Would explain many content creators who apologize for Richard Allen. They see themselves in him. Yeah, that's a little bit creepy. It's pretty deep, dude. Fake animal fur. Yeah, we'll talk about that on another stream, Frank. Greasy. Yeah, they somehow are relating to Richard Allen, huh? Strange. Incelish. That's an interesting word. I think a lot. And that's why we covered all these incel cases, because I feel like there might be a little bit of that going on here with Richard Allen. Andy, good to see you. I'm pretty sure there's a film of the event. Well, if what Garrett Kurtz said is true, he said there are films of it. Ashley Garth told him. Ashley Garth told him that she watched it on video. That Nick Edwards and Sheena Cottrell had it on film. So does Nick Edwards and this Cottrell person, are they connected to Richard Allen in any way? What's up, Julia? Trying to figure out if Barb McDonald is pushing Ron Logan narrative for her own financial gain. I don't know if it's for financial gain. I think it's more about all of her effort, kind of going down the drain now that Richard Allen's been arrested, because Ron Logan did look like a viable suspect with everything that she knew and everything that she uncovered. But the only thing that she didn't uncover was her own bias. And that's the thing. You have to be extremely careful about that. You have to keep yourself in check. None of this would have happened if she wouldn't have done that. If she wouldn't have been biased and she would have been honest with herself and about the evidence and taken into consideration the variables, this wouldn't have happened. And here's the time-stamped photo. So originally, this photo was posted to Snapchat, and it didn't have a timestamp. But later on down the road, she was able to provide the actual photograph. And you can see here it was at 1:26 p.m. on the 13th. Now, right after this photo was taken, like 5 minutes later, they bump into Richard Allen. He's not leaving the trails. He's going towards the high bridge. Clout. No cap. No Diddy. That's the one I learned yesterday. Still not quite sure what it means, but it sounds funny. Yep, they do allude to it in the Ron Logan affidavit. All right, guys, that's it. That's everything. That's everything that we have on Abby and Libby's case. Even if it helped to make other people look guilty, which it did with the specifically with the Logan Holder stuff. But you always have to consider the human element. Maybe Logan was just tired of people reaching out to him. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was irritated. Maybe he still does care, but he didn't want to come off like a pussy. The human element. You never know why people are doing what they do. So I want to welcome Mia Wallace to the Sleuth Crew. Shout out to According to Lene, Shane, Unsilent Bob, Jennifer, KO Storkbish, my guy Don, Sleuth Crew General, Zoe Kitty, my guy Joseph, and the Saint. Thank you guys for sponsoring today's live stream and supporting my channel. All of my members out there, everybody who was able to catch the live stream. I will see you guys again very soon. Time for the outro, and peace out. Thank you for watching the Sleuth Intuition channel. If you are part of the replay crew, you know what to do. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay in the loop. Sleuth Intuition is 100% crowdfunded. If you want to support me and help my channel grow, here are 3 ways that you can help. Number 1, Cash App. The funds go directly to me without YouTube taking a percentage. Number 2, become a member. Members are by far the leading contributors to my channel. Number 3, hit up the merch shop. Represent the Sleuth Crew on these ruthless streets. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. Until next time.